I thought the next day when I went to school, they had announced this Slumdog Millionaire has won an Oscar.
Okay.
So that was the day. And I felt like, okay, this is great news. And then I realized, okay, this is a foreigner making a film on in India and winning an Oscar. So I told to myself that, okay, I am going to make a film that will win an Oscar and it will be made in India.
Yeah.
So that's how the whole journey of filmmaking started for me. There is always something in the film that you want to make that just that just blows you. Something at one point it will come and it will just devastate you from inside. That how can this thing exist? How beautiful this is. I felt that it's over for me. It's over. That I cannot make films. I cannot write. And it was such a traumatic period for me that really I couldn't think for 3-4 months. I was just trying to think of one idea that I wanted to make a film of, and it did not come to me. There was nothing that I could think of. And when there was nothing I could think of, I thought of nothing.
Okay.
And, like I felt I want to make a film that is nothing,
Wow.
that has no meaning, that has no sense, that makes no sense to anyone. But people will fucking watch it.
Yeah. A lot of people would argue that most of French cinema is that. यार what is it about engineering? Because engineering करके rarely कोई engineer बनता है यार. Like most of the people go into different fields. Like what is it about specifically about engineering कि ऐसा होता है?
पता नहीं एक्चुअली अगर ऐसे देखने जाए तो इंजीनियरिंग के मेरे जितने भी दोस्त हैं most of them would have liked to be an engineer, but there are no jobs, engineering jobs available. So most of them have to be in sales. Some of them have to teach. Some of them have to look for government jobs. So engineering करके बाकी सब तो तुम कर सकते हो, पर engineering करना थोड़ा मुश्किल है. मतलब अच्छे इंजीनियर्स को ही वो अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलता है मोस्ट ऑफ द
टाइम. आई गेस जॉब से ज़्यादा वो भी सीन है कि लाइक द एजुकेशन इज नॉट दैट ग्रेट इनफ, सो वी डोंट प्रोड्यूस लाइक रियली गुड इंजीनियर्स.
दैट्स ट्रू.
सो वो भी सीन है
एक्चुअली. मतलब हम लोग करते भी है प्रोड्यूस. मतलब बहुत टाइम में ऐसा हो जाता है ना कि जो इतना बड़ा पैमाने में लोग आते हैं ना, इंजीनियर्स आते हैं एवरी ईयर, उसको जॉब देना एक्चुअली ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम है इंडिया में. उतना जॉब है नहीं. मतलब दे आर नॉट द बेस्ट इंजीनियर्स मोस्ट ऑफ देम. That is true. That is another way of looking at it.
Because anything that would be mass produced.
Yeah, but I think the most important part of it is jobs. If we had jobs and opportunities, most of the people would have preferred to be and would have also क्योंकि देखो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम जब इंजीनियरिंग के मतलब नौकरी जो भी इंजीनियर नौकरी करता है, they learn in the process after they get into a company. Most of the things that we learn in engineering are basics ना. मतलब if you are getting into a actual civil engineering job, उसके practical जो मतलब utilities है जो तुमको जानना पड़ता है, वो सब तुमको फील्ड में जाके ही पता चलेगा. मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर को भी उसके बेसिक्स उसको पता हो सकता है कि क्या क्या मशीन इस मतलब इंडस्ट्री में यूज़ हो रहा है या फिर कैसे वो काम करता है, और इवेंचुअली वो मशीन एग्जैक्टली कैसे काम करता है और उससे कैसे प्रोड्यूस निकालना होता है या फिर क्या कैसे उसको ठीक करना होता है, वो उसको जॉब में ही सीखने मिलता है. मतलब मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम तो वो जॉब ही नहीं है तो कैसे लोग सीखेंगे ना. हाउ विल द इंजीनियर्स इवन बिकम बेटर इंजीनियर्स?
आई गेस दैट्स व्हाई दे हैव ट्रेनिंग पीरियड्स, राइट? कि 6-7 महीने probably they just teach you to do stuff. Like my cousin is doing engineering right now and he got placed in a company, but the company, because of recession and because of AI, is letting out people. So jobs वाला चीज़ तो हमेशा से exist करता था, and with now AI as a thing, वो फिर
very
और हो
scary यार. Scary, and it's a new world after this. After AI, it's a new world. We have to be ready for it.
Have you gotten into the rabbit hole of exploring AI वगैरह, mid journey ये सब वगैरह?
Not really. मतलब I have been following certain things. क्या हो रहा है मतलब, या फिर there is a WhatsApp group जहाँ पे ये सब आता रहता है, information about what AI का क्या चल रहा है. I tried to make some images for my next film. उसके कुछ images मैंने try किया था, वॉली या क्या नाम था उससे,
डाली
डाली, हाँ डाली में try किया था. It was really interesting images आया था. So पर after that I didn't pursue it. Let's see. अब तो it's going to be very difficult if you are not acquainted with AI and technology in that way. It's going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
किसी भी डिपार्टमेंट में रहो आप.
Yeah, especially filmmaking, I feel there are a lot of spaces where AI could potentially be good. Like like you told about image generation, and you could use image generation for storyboarding.
Yeah.
And then there's this really cool thing I watched. I guess it's a software by Wonder Dynamics. And उसमें you could do 3D rendering. You could just like motion capture कर सकते हो. And then the thing that used to take like hours and hours of work, you could just do that with one click.
Oh.
And there's that. Then chat GPT वगैरह तुम use कर ही सकते हो for script enhancement वगैरह. So
but then where do we stand is a big question after that. मतलब it does help individual filmmakers, like independent filmmakers like us. We cannot afford, say I want some very interesting VFX in a shot. Say there is a need of like, say something of the sort of Transformers, or say something like a superhero film, of a Hollywood superhero film. उस तरह का मेरा कुछ image I want to create, which I cannot afford to otherwise. But AI can help me do that at certain point. अभी तो वो इतना prepare नहीं हुआ है, but eventually very soon, like maybe in a year or two, we will be acquainted with things like that. So we can just think unimaginable things and AI will create it. But then it disturbs the whole, like ecosystem. Basically, it disturbs the whole ecosystem. Say अगर मैं अपना film without a cinematographer, without a VFX artist बना पाऊँ, सिर्फ मैं नहीं, वो बड़े बड़े companies भी बना सकते हैं, कोई भी बना सकता है. So the whole ecosystem, the people who were making a livelihood out of this, who were trained to do all this, they'll lose their jobs. And after that, what do they do? I know, like that's a big question. You have to redefine yourself, your own ways of making films, everything. It will be very difficult.
I mean, that has happened always, right? Always, when every time there was a great change, like industrial revolution happened, internet happened, and every time we were concerned कि अच्छा jobs जाएंगी, but then new jobs come up, and stuff like there's now stuff like prompt engineering and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's an interesting world. My concern with this is
जब फोटोग्राफी आया था, तब भी लोगों ने बोला था कि this is the end of painting. है ना,
exactly.
फिर जब मूविंग इमेज आया, उसके बाद लोगों ने बोला कि फोटोग्राफी का डेथ हो गया है. जब कलर आया तो ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट का डेथ हो गया है. जब साउंड आया तो जब आया था, इंटरेस्टिंगली a lot of people had said that this is the end of cinema, because people were not ready to accept कि साउंड भी हम सुन पाए, या फिर because it was a dub at that time, beginning में, so it was very fake, and a lot of people in the Hollywood, they protested saying that we don't need such fake things in cinema. Yeah.
So was it coming from a place of कि अच्छा cinema is a visual medium वगैरह, don't corrupt it with sound?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. मतलब क्योंकि स्टार्टिंग में वो डब होता था ना, तो like वो एक फिल्म है, आर्टिस्ट था शायद उस फिल्म का नाम, या आई थिंक आर्टिस्ट था, जिसमें उन्होंने दिखाया था वो पूरा प्रोसेस कैसे वो आया, कैसे साउंड का फिल्म पे. सो द फर्स्ट फिल्म व्हिच हैड साउंड, दैट वाज कॉल्ड द जैज सिंगर. Not that was the first film which had dialogues. Jazz singer. The first dialogue that he said was that you ain't heard anything yet. That was the first dialogue in the history of cinema.
Interesting trivia.
Man, it's crazy.
So I guess that's what happens. Like mostly नई चीजें आती है तो people are first averse to it and then they accept it and then they're like let's
we
play
have
with
to
it
cope up.
even.
We have to survive. But then it's kind of at this point to imagine the whole possibility of what AI can do. That is very scary. मतलब I know will overcome it. कुछ तो होगा मतलब because that is how the whole human race has survived always. But imagine what is going to come.
I mean, there's this utopian dream of AI would do everything and we would just be involved with creative stuff, playing football, writing, singing, and all of that. That's the utopian dream. But we aren't sure if that's gonna happen. Because again, my thing is ki,
But why do we write?
Why would we write? I guess we would do it just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Not to probably earn a living from it or do something.
Yeah.
We just write for the fun of it, probably. But then again, I feel. Do you think AI could be creative?
It's already creative.
I mean,
it's already creating
it depends,
poems.
right? What is creativity? Again, it depends on that too. Because a lot of creativity is just impersonation. Like somebody has done something and you build up upon that. You basically mishmash a lot of stuff together. A lot of creativity is that. If that's all that is there to creativity, then probably AI can do it.
It has already done it. I don't think there is anything to creativity other than permutations and combinations. So basically, whenever we are making films, we are not conscious of it.
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, I probably am not conscious of it most of the time. That मैं ये कहाँ से उठा रहा हूँ. But originality is a myth. There is nothing called original.
Yeah.
There is nothing that I can create that the world has not seen. So, if I'm creating a film, even when I'm writing a poem, say, these words have been already, they have been expressed. The feelings have been expressed. The words have been used. Probably the sentence was also used in that way. Maybe I can use a new combination of these words, or maybe I can use a combination of sentences, or say even quotations in a new way to express. But that AI can already do. If you tell AI to do this, it will already do it. So what is the point of us writing after that? I mean, there is always a point. There's always a point. The point would be to express for what we actually have come into this whole world of cinema. We have come to express ourselves, or for that matter, any kind of art form we are practicing is about expression, right? So to express, we will always write probably, but then there will be so much of content which already there is so much of content all over. इतना कंटेंट में कौन पढ़ेगा भाई? तुम्हारा लिखा हुआ चीज कौन पढ़ेगा? मेरा बनाया हुआ फिल्म कौन देखेगा? और अगर कोई देख ही नहीं रहा है, अगर कोई पढ़ ही नहीं रहा है, तो उस एक्सप्रेशन का मतलब ही क्या हुआ? क्योंकि एक्सप्रेशन, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट एक्सप्रेशन, इट इज ऑलवेज अ कम्युनिकेशन. आपने कुछ फील किया है, महसूस किया है, वो आप उसको एक फॉर्म देके आप किसी और को उस एक्सपीरियंस के थ्रू लेके जाना चाहते हो, या फिर उनको बताना चाहते हो कि मैंने ऐसा फील किया. अब जब इतना कंटेंट हो जाएगा कि आप सोच रहे हो और 10 कंटेंट आपके थॉट से ही 10 कंटेंट बन रहा है, तो कौन पढ़ेगा उसको? ऑडियंस कौन होगा आपका? उसका मतलब ही क्या रहेगा? Crazy.
But don't you think that has already happened? Like content saturation वगैरह, we've already come to that point. I feel
it has, but
I can't watch all the films, all the interesting films. I can't watch all the interesting shows.
We can't. It's
at
not
this
possible.
point. Yeah.
It's not possible at all. But then there is a way to at least know कि से एक हफ्ते में 5 फिल्म्स रिलीज हो रही है. Just for an example, 5 लोगों ने अपना एक्सप्रेशन मतलब थ्रो किया है ऑडियंस के लिए, सो यू कैन गो थ्रू द लिस्ट एंड यू कैन डिसाइड कि मैं ये फिल्म देखूंगा, है ना. अगर 5 के जगह पे 500 हो जाते हैं या फिर 5000 हो जाते हैं, then how do you locate yourself? How do you locate a film, आर्ट? मतलब अभी क्या हो रहा है कि बहुत फिल्में बन रही है, एटलीस्ट सिनेमा की अगर बात किया जाए, हर एक देश में अलग अलग फिल्में बन रही है, रीजनली इतने सारे फिल्म्स बन रही है, बट देन देयर इज स्टिल अ लिमिट टू इट. एआई के बाद तो लिमिट नहीं रहेगा ना. सो वो लिमिटलेसनेस में मुझे लगता है कि ये और सीरियस हो जाएगा. शायद आप कुछ लिखोगे और आप खुद ही नहीं पढ़ पाओगे, क्योंकि जब तक आप लिख लेते हो तब तक आपको लगेगा कि ये इसका कोई मतलब नहीं है, मैंने बस लिख दिया, अब इसका क्या मतलब है, मैं क्यों पढूं, मैंने ही लिखा है, मैं क्यों पढूं. जब आप खुद के साथ ही कम्युनिकेट नहीं करोगे तो और किसी और को आप भेजोगे, कोई और देखेगा, कब देखेगा, क्यों देखेगा. इट्स आई डोंट नो, प्रोबेबली डायरी फिल्म मेकिंग हो सकता है. मेरे पापा का डायरी फिल्म शायद मैं देखूं, मेरी मम्मी का डायरी फिल्म शायद. हाँ,
व्हाट्स डायरी फिल्म मेकिंग?
आई एम सेइंग कि अगर मेरे पापा एक डायरी फिल्म बनाते हैं तो शायद वो मैं देखूंगा. मेरी मम्मी बनाती है एक डायरी फिल्म, शायद वो मैं देखूंगा. मेरा बच्चा बनाता है, मैं देखूंगा. Other than that, who will watch what? Nobody will. So it's a very limited audience, and limited everything will become pointless in a way. I'm not sure of it. I can't say I'm sure of it, but it seems like that.
I guess we are also moving towards a future जहाँ काफ़ी niche communities है. Like everybody is interested in niche things. Like 10-12 लोग की community है जो पता नहीं कुछ अजीब सी चीज़ में interested है and all of that. And वो जो है ना community सारे मिलकर एक ही चीज़ देखने जा रहे हैं. Probably that would go away. Probably it would be कि अच्छा curated content है that's specifically driven to your interests, and you're probably gonna watch it. There's this Black Mirror episode जिसमें वो
you can just go anywhere.
You're just watching it all the time. I guess that could be the case. But anyway, it's interesting. It's probably a little scary, but it's interesting.
It's interesting. I remember something from what I was watching yesterday. I was watching, you know about Mohsen Makhmalbaf?
Yeah, I've heard it.
So he's an Iranian filmmaker.
This is the guy जिस पे वो close-up बनी थी क्या? Is this the guy?
I'm not sure. और किरोस्तामी ने बनाया था.
हाँ, किरोस्तामी ने जो बनाई थी वो यही था ना, शायद यही डायरेक्टर था ना जिस पे बनाई थी.
क्लोजअप पे, हाँ, क्लोजअप में मखमलबफ था. मखमलबफ और वो था, क्या नाम था उनका, सब्जियान. हाँ, सब्जियान था. हाँ, राइट, दैट गाय. सो उनका एक इंटरव्यू देख रहा था कल मैं. तो क्या है ना कि मैं जब भी फिल्में बनाता हूँ, कोई भी मुझे मेरे फिल्मों के बारे में जब पूछता है, तो आई हैव फिगर्ड आउट कि मेरे फिल्में ज़्यादातर लोनलीनेस के बारे में होती है. देयर इज समथिंग अबाउट लोनलीनेस दैट इज consistent in all the films. There is something where someone is trying to reach out to people, or like calling for calling for someone to help. Like there is, all the characters are very lonely in all my films. Now this is not something that I thought before I was making them. It's something that now I can think of, that everything that I think of, all the stories that come to me have a protagonist who is very lonely, or a scenario which is very lonely or scary or something, like तो ये होता है. अब जब मैं कल मखमलबफ का इंटरव्यू देख रहा था तो उन्होंने एक चीज़ बताया कि ये वेस्ट के जो फिल्में होती है वो सारे फिल्मों में ही जो आर्ट, सो कॉल्ड आर्ट फिल्म्स जो होती है, या फिर मतलब जो बेसिकली फेस्टिवल के फिल्में, सो बेसिकली पैरेलल जितना भी सिनेमा बन रहा है कमर्शियल सिनेमा के अलावा, वो सारे ही वेस्ट में इसी चीज़ पे डिपेंड करता है कि कोई लोनली है. दे आर जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट लोनलीनेस, एंड he says that if you are lonely, go out and make friends. Why are you making a film?
Yeah.
मेरे को लगा कि भाई मतलब मुझे ही बोल रहा है,
पर्सनल अटैक फील हुआ,
पर्सनल अटैक हो गया यार. हाँ,
I guess
it's very interesting ना.
yeah, actually, like the thing is said about West में जितने भी पैरेलल सिनेमा बन रहा है, it's about loneliness. I feel West में ये पैंडमिक और एपिडेमिक है somehow.
Yeah, है,
loneliness
इसीलिए
का, and
आता है.
like India में there's still like joint families में रहते हो,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
live वहाँ फिर 18 साल की उम्र में तुम्हें निकाल दिया जाता है,
निकाल
and you
दिया
could
जाता है.
get it कि क्यों वहाँ loneliness हो सकता है. इंडिया में even if you're sad, you have like 5 fucking people besides you.
Yeah.
कुछ ना कुछ चल रहा होता है.
हाँ, पर इस सिचुएशन में लोनलीनेस अलग तरीके का होता है. मतलब हमारे लिए लोनलीनेस जिस तरह का है वो वेस्ट के लोगों के लिए नहीं है. देयर लोनलीनेस इज वेकेंसी, नथिंगनेस. दैट इज देयर लोनलीनेस. मैं लास्ट ईयर नवंबर में रशिया गया था. मेरे फिल्म स्क्रीनिंग थी मेरा फिल्म का. तो वहाँ मैंने देखा कि कितना लोनली जगह है. मुझे ऐसा लगा कि इस जगह के साथ मैं कनेक्ट इसीलिए शायद कर पा रहा हूँ क्योंकि ये जगह लोनली है. इट इज़ इन रियल टर्म्स लोनली है. किसी भी आदमी को मैं देख रहा था रास्ते में, दे वर ऑल अलोन, दे आर वॉकिंग अलोन. मैक्सिमम दे आर वॉकिंग विद देयर लाइक गर्लफ्रेंड और बॉयफ्रेंड और पार्टनर. सो इधर 2 लोग जा रहे हैं या फिर एक आदमी जा रहा है या फिर एक औरत जा रही है या फिर कोई औरत जा रही है जो एक कुत्ता लेके जा रही है. पर ये जो यहाँ पे हम कभी देखते ही नहीं है कि कोई अकेला जा रहा है.
Yeah.
जब भी किसी को देखते हैं तो वो 5 लोगों के साथ जा रहा होता है.
Yeah.
3 लोगों के साथ जा रहा होता है. मतलब देयर इज नेवर दिस फीलिंग ऑफ वेकेंसी कि यहाँ पे एक स्पेस खाली है. वो लिटरल जो डेफिनेशन है ना,
it's more about space probably because Russia इतना बड़ा है but लोग काफी कम है, so probably हर एक इंडिविजुअल को ज्यादा स्पेस
होता है. हाँ, हो सकता है actually.
Yep, things are crammed as shit.
Yeah.
So you could probably रात को ऐसे निकल रहा and you could see people.
Yeah.
And I like that though.
Yeah, that's beautiful actually. Yeah. But then यहाँ पे loneliness अलग तरीके का होता है. यहाँ पे loneliness होता है societal loneliness. In a way कि हम लोनली इसीलिए है क्योंकि हम ऐसे एक सोसाइटी में रहते हैं जो ज़्यादातर चीज़ों को जिससे आप स्ट्रगल करते हो अंदर ही अंदर, उन सब चीज़ों को ये सोसाइटी एक्सेप्ट ही नहीं करता है मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स. जिन चीज़ों के बारे में हम बात नहीं कर पाते हैं, क्यों नहीं कर पाते हैं? मतलब आप एक most of the people are afraid of the idea of sex for say. They are afraid of the idea of thieves, है ना? That is fine that you are afraid of thieves or you are afraid of criminal activity, but then there is no scope of questioning कि ये जो लोग हैं ना, तुम उनसे क्या बात करोगे? मतलब लोग है, but can you ask them something which you really want to ask? Or is it a very, like the fragile part of you can never open up in front of most of the people that you're walking with. So it's like having no one, na?
Yeah. Because even if you have people, if you don't have the fucking environment where you could probably talk about
it. So I think it's like that. So loneliness का definition अलग हो जाता है. लिटरल नहीं होता है पर होता है, हर किसी के ज़िंदगी में ही होता है. स्पेसिफिकली इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में तो मैंने देखा है कि सब लोगों के साथ ही होता है और ये थोड़ा अलग है जो हम फिल्मों में नहीं देखते हैं जनरली. उससे अलग लोनलीनेस है.
So you talked about your films having this constant theme of loneliness, which again I've noticed because The Horse from Heaven mein the protagonist is really lonely to the point where he imagines a donkey to be a horse.
Yeah.
Then there's The Poetry of Whispers, which is my favorite film of yours.
Oh, thank you.
मैंने feature films अभी तक देखे नहीं है. I'll probably get to it. I didn't get it internet पे कहाँ देखूँ. I'll probably get to them because those are interesting too. But Poetry of Whispers में the main lead Bisso, he's लिविंग इन अ सिटी, अर्बन लाइफ में जी रहा है, एंड ही प्रॉब्ली सीज कि एक गांव में जो रह रही है जहाँ इतने शायद लोग भी नहीं है, वो प्रॉब्ली अपने बाप के साथ रहती है, वो लोनली नहीं है, बट ये जहाँ 5 लोगों के साथ रह रहा है क्रैम्प्ड स्पेसेस में, ये बंदा लोनली है. सो दैट्स लाइक रियली इंटरेस्टिंग टू मी. हाउ डिड यू अराइव एट दैट, लाइक उस फिल्म की जो एक्सप्लोरेशन थी?
हाँ, एक्चुअली उस टाइम पे मैं कुछ और लिख रहा था प्रोजेक्ट के लिए. हमेशा ऐसा ही होता है. एंड आई वाज इन लव विद दिस गर्ल. So she was beautiful, and we were like just talking over phone. We never met, but we were in this beautiful relationship जहाँ पे मतलब we could just keep talking and talking to each other and give solace to each other. तो क्या हुआ कि मैं उसके साथ बात कर रहा था और उसकी मम्मी नहीं है. So when we were just talking, मतलब क्या है ना कि शी बिलोंग्स टू अ कम्युनिटी, ताई खामियांग एक कम्युनिटी है, असमीज कम्युनिटी है. तो उनका जो बात करने का तरीका है, जो उनका एक्सेंट है, वो एक्सेंट बहुत ऐसा गाने जैसा है, एज इफ लाइक देयर इज अ म्यूजिक गोइंग ऑन, देयर इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग म्यूजिकलिटी टू इट.
अच्छा.
इवन व्हेन दे आर सेइंग समथिंग इट वुड साउंड लाइक दे आर सिंगिंग. सो ये लैंग्वेज अभी बहुत डिमिनिश हो गया है. Generally people don't know their own language. So but that accent is there. So whenever she talks, there is a certain kind of a poetry in it, you know. However she's talking, you know, there is a, so वो मुझे हमेशा फील होता था, हो रहा था. And then suddenly one day I was talking to her and she told me that, do you hear these cows? And I could actually hear them. Like she was in the village and I could hear the cows and she was saying कि मेरी मम्मी भी ऐसे ही बुलाती है मुझे.
Yeah.
So that is when
that's in the film,
that's in
right?
the film. So I felt that shit, man, this is like cinema. Like मेरे जिंदगी में अभी भी ये हैबिट है कि जब भी मैं कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग चीज देखता हूँ ना, तो आई फील लाइक फक, दिस इज सिनेमा, दिस इज व्हाट आई एम लुकिंग फॉर, यू नो. So when she said that, I felt like, oh God, this is what cinema is. This thing, you know, like there is always something in the film that you want to make that just, you know, that just blows you. You know, something at one point it will come and it will just devastate you from inside. That how can this thing exist? How beautiful this is, you know. तो उस टाइम पे मुझे लगा कि ये तो फिल्म हो सकता है.
हाँ.
Then I started thinking. जब मैं सोचने लगा, सोचते सोचते मुझे ये फील हुआ कि मैं ये क्यों इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहा है. तो मेरा जो फिल्म मेकिंग का प्रोसेस है, I have figured out a way कि it's not my way, but this is a way that I have, like, I think I work on most of the times. कि ऐसा होता है कि कुछ अच्छा लगता है सोच के कि ये अच्छा है, ये फिल्म है मेरा. Now after that I start asking that what is the film about? What? Then I ask who should make this film? Is it me or is it somebody else? Why should I make this film? है ना. तो ये जब प्रोसेस शुरू होता है, who, how, when, ये जब क्वेश्चनिंग शुरू होता है, क्वेश्चनिंग शुरू जब हुआ मेरे इस फिल्म के मतलब प्रोसेस में, देन आई रियलाइज कि ये एक्चुअली ये फिल्म मैं इसीलिए बनाना चाहता हूँ क्योंकि मैं लोनली हूँ. एंड देन आई kept thinking about it कि how am I lonely? But I stay with all my friends in the hostel. I'm in a space like SRFTI, where I always wanted to be. It was a dream space for me. सिनेमा के बीच में ही जी रहा हूँ, सुबह से रात तक, सोने तक सिर्फ सिनेमा ही जिंदगी में चल रही है. सुबह उठता हूँ, क्लास में जाता हूँ, फिल्म चलती है, क्लास में भी फिल्म ही दिखाते हैं हमको. फिर शाम होता है, शाम को इवनिंग स्क्रीनिंग होता है, फिल्म दिखाते हैं, फिर चाय पीने जाते हैं, वहाँ भी फिल्म का ही डिस्कशन हो रहा होता है. फिर डिनर करते हैं, फिर नाइट स्क्रीनिंग होता है, फिर नाइट को फिल्म देखो. फिर अगर तुमको ये तो सब कुछ मतलब किसी और का बोला हुआ चीज है जो मतलब बेसिकली दे आर ऑल क्यूरेटेड. नाउ देयर विल बी फिल्म्स दैट यू एक्चुअली वांट टू वॉच आउटसाइड ऑफ दिस क्यूरेशन. फिर भी तुम घर जाके फिर एक फिल्म देखो रात को सुबह तक. इन दिस प्रोसेस आई वाज फीलिंग लोनली. हाउ इज इट पॉसिबल? सिर्फ सिनेमा के बीच में हो जहां मैं हमेशा होना चाहता था. Then I started realizing that I don't know why, but this is what it is. I'm lonely amongst people who are just like me. All these people, somebody is doing music, somebody is doing art, somebody is creating some films, shooting films. इन सब के बीच में भी आई वॉज फीलिंग लोनली, मतलब लोनलीनेस एग्जिस्ट करता है मेरी जिंदगी में, एंड दिस इज व्हाट आई नीड टू लुक एट. सो दैट इज व्हाई आई काइंड ऑफ मेड दैट इन दैट वे. और इसीलिए वो लास्ट में पोएट्री ऑफ विस्पर्स में फोर्थ वॉल ब्रेक करता हूँ मैं, और एंड आई लाइक शो दैट दिस इज अ फिल्म सेट, दैट आई एग्जिस्ट एंड आई दिस इज ट्रू, दिस इज रियल, whatever you just saw, it's as real as this film set. That is the whole idea.
Yeah, so again, I've noticed कि जैसे loneliness is a theme in your film, you talk a lot about films in your films, which is again Poetry of Whispers में you've talked about the fact कि अच्छा you zoom out and then you're in the film set, you're reminded that the fact that it's a film. And then The Horse from Heaven, I feel interestingly, it's also about filmmaking in a way, because it communicates the fact that storytelling is so powerful that it could actually make a myth into reality, where people would start believing you at one point that this is a horse. What the fuck are you fucking concerned about? This is a fucking horse. So that's also the power of cinema, right? There's this term called memes, which Richard Dawkins put out. Memes are basically ideas that memes are like you have your DNA, right? And your DNA gets passed on to other person, and then the information in the DNA is passed on to other person. Memes are like DNAs, which when passed on to a huge culture, these are like short packets of ideas which are passed on to culture, and then cultural evolution happens. I feel stories are that way. Stories are like these small memes that gets passed on to people, and then it could probably communicate a lot of information to a lot of people at the same time.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's actually that is what I always think about. Like that I think of ghosts, ghosts as not just me. This is not a very like my thought or something, but this is what I believe in. That ghosts that exist in a culture, in a society, that we talk about, like in Assam there are so many ghosts that like there is this guy called Chinmay Barma. He's a filmmaker. You probably know about him. He made some very interesting AI images. He's made films, and I recently watched his new film Jokhini. Very interesting as a person. So like these ghosts of Assam, what I look at them as, they're a package of collective conscious of the society. They exist because of our history as a community, because how we have passed on our knowledge to each other orally, or like even unconsciously, subconsciously, we have passed on, and we have got it from our like other people who lived before us. So I think, isn't it like kind of similar that these ghosts are actually not just ghosts, they are actually stories. They are they kind of represent the setting of where you are. Like if you look at the ghosts of Assam specifically, like they are not at all the ghosts that you see in Hollywood films. They are not. There is this interesting film, probably you have seen it, Uncle Bunmi Who Can Recall His Past Lives, by Apichatpong Veresatakul.
I haven't seen
it. It's a very interesting film. Apichatpong is a filmmaker from Thailand.
Yeah, I know of him.
Yeah. So Apichatpong. So Apichatpong का वो जो फिल्म है उसमें एक सीन है, डिनर टेबल सीन है.
ठीक है.
वो सीन में क्या होता है ना कि वो लोग खाना खाने बैठे हैं, अचानक से there is a transparent ghost which appears and sits in a chair just beside the man.
Okay.
And like if it was a Hollywood film, how would the guy react. He would like shout
of
and
course.
just yell and hey, bring the gun, kill, like something like that.
I guess ghost को gun से नहीं मार पाएगा.
पता नहीं, but they would like think of something.
Yeah, they would probably get scared.
They get scared or something like that.
Yeah.
Or run away, or like create a situation where people are like scared as fuck, and there'll be jump scares, and like they will run to their car and something like that. But what Apichatpong does is that they look at this ghost, they're afraid, and then the man realizes that this is his wife, and they start talking to each other. Then they eat together.
Whoa.
After some time, another ghost comes, and this ghost has red eyes and black, huge black human kind, like a monster, And वो आता है, फिर रियलाइज करता है कि वो उसका बेटा है जो बहुत साल पहले जंगल में भाग गया था एक दिन, और भागने के बाद वो धीरे धीरे वो उधर ही रहते रहते वो बंदर बन गया है, और वो आज वापस आया है, और वो लोग एक साथ खाना खाते हैं. This is how he treats, ghosts.
And that's a dinner table scene.
That's a dinner table scene.
Wow. What's the name of the film?
Uncle Bunmi, who can recall his past lives.
Okay. I'll probably watch it
Yeah,
tonight.
please do.
So
It's-
you talked about ghosts and how ghosts from Assam are different from like your normal Hollywood ghost or whatever. And
by the way, I'm very thankful. It's very interesting point that you put up about the storytelling and the form of my
Yeah.
films.
yeah, so probably a lot of like this myth of the ghosts. There's this book by Joseph Campbell, right, where he talks about the hero's journey and how
yeah.
most of the myths, irrespective of the places that they were born into, are kind of similar.
Yeah.
And I feel myths in general or stories like those were probably just fiction that was created to impart some sort of value into you,
Yeah.
some sort of metaphor in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah.
And same with like you, I just thought it was an interesting parallel between you talking about ghosts and this myth.
Yeah, I think it's very similar. That's how I also think. Like, that is what I believe. Like, even gods, I don't really believe in God, but I believe that God exists in a different form, in a form that we cannot we cannot give a shape or structure to. It's a free flowing form, and it is what it is for you. It is not something that somebody can define it for you. It is what you feel. It is about your inside. That is why a lot of even in Hinduism also they talk about the inner God, and even in Buddhism, Buddhism specifically, Jainism, they talk about the God being inside. And I think it makes sense because it is about who you feel God is, who you feel ghosts are, who you feel the myths are, what you make of them, to live your life, to keep living. Without stories, human beings cannot exist, right? Like it's not possible for for at least human beings to exist because they are conscious beings, and if you become so conscious of your consciousness and your existence, if we become extremely conscious about our existence, it's very scary. It's unlivable. It's that is what nihilists talk about. I think that is where these stories come in. That is where these stories can take you to a different world, a magical world that is not reality, but that is a reality in your mind, and that can become your reality to live, to exist, and to explore your own self.
Yeah. Have you had your fair share of nihilism?
Yeah,
Because
actually,
you seem like someone who thinks a lot about this stuff. You talked about God. I'm probably assuming you have had your fair share of thought about what God is or what these myths are. So, have you had your fair share of nihilism too?
See, what happened was I was the first film, feature length kind of a film that. So I had a my most of the films that I make are always related to people that I have fallen in love with. Most
Wow.
of them, yeah. So this film that I have thought that I am going to make one day, very soon probably. I don't know when, but very soon. So this film, I had a breakup, very disastrous breakup, and the person who I had broken up with was a very. She was very creative. She used to write scripts for me, and we used to make films together and all sorts of things. So once we broke up, I felt that fuck, there is nothing after this for me. I felt that I can't think of any story. I was trying to think of once. This was all before SRFTI. So I was kind of thinking for one story that I wanted to make a film out of, and I couldn't think of anything. I felt that it's over for me. It's over. That I cannot make films. I cannot write. And it was such a traumatic period for me that really I couldn't think for 3 4 months. I was just trying to think of one idea that I wanted to make a film of, and it did not come to me. There was nothing that I could think of, and when there was nothing I could think of, I thought of nothing.
Okay.
And like I felt I want to make a film that is nothing,
Wow.
that has no meaning,
Hmm.
that has no sense, that makes no sense to anyone,
Uh,
but people will fucking watch it.
yeah. A lot of people would argue that most of French cinema is that. That's just a joke.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, so I thought that nothing. I want to make a film on nothing, and I started working on a concept, and eventually I got a nice film in my mind. Like every film is nice to the creator, at least. So this film is also very beautiful for me, at least. So I started thinking of it, and I shared the story with a few friends. And so one friend told me that this is like a nihilist story. No, not nihilist. He told me that this story of yours feels like waiting for Godot. And when he said that, I didn't know what is waiting for Godot. And I, you know, started looking for it on Google and online. What is waiting for Godot? And I found that this is a play by Samuel Beckett, and it's about nihilism. And some people would write it as existentialism. I don't know what these things are, but it said that. Then I kind of read the whole story where Godot never comes, and the two people are waiting for a person who is called Godot. Do you know about
No,
it?
I don't know
Okay,
about this.
so this is a very interesting play by Samuel Beckett. So the story is about two men who are trams. Like they do not have any work. They're just two random people who are waiting for someone called Godot, Godot.
Okay.
And Godot hasn't arrived yet. They're sitting under a tree, which is like a dry tree, and we are just waiting and talking about Godot. Now they don't remember how long they have been waiting for Godot.
Hmm.
They don't remember when Godot told them that he will come, but they definitely remember that Godot is going to come. They just keep on waiting for Godot, and then the story goes on. In the play, there is no character called Godot which appears. Godot never comes. In the
Okay.
play. That
That's
is the
really
most interesting part of the play, that Godot, waiting for Godot, and Godot never comes.
It's
So-
like that myth of Sisyphus, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
guy pushing,
Pushing
the
the
rock
stone.
against
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mountain, and it just again and
Again and again
again.
repeating. Yeah. And this is very much like that. Like in this play, what happens is that in the beginning, not in the beginning, in the starting some part of it, previous part of it, two characters come. One of them is एक वो है, मतलब एक slave है और एक उसका master है, and they come, and there is a scene, and then they leave, and in the end part of it, again these two characters come, but now the roles have changed.
जो स्लेव था वो
वो
मास्टर
मास्टर बन गया है, जो
अच्छा।
मास्टर था वो स्लेव
slave
बन
बन
गया
गया।
है, and there is another scene.
हाँ
It's a very absurdist play. These people are talking about crazy things. They are talking about dying, and they are talking about dying in a way कि भाई मर जाता हूँ मैं, इतना क्या वेट करना है.
काफी कैजुअल
हाँ, तो दूसरा बोलता है कि हाँ चलो मर जाता है. तो फिर ये बोलता है कि शूलेस से हम टांगेंगे एक दूसरे को, पर पहले तू मर क्योंकि तेरा वेट ज्यादा है.
ओके हाँ
अगर तू लटकेगा और तू बच जाएगा तो फिर मैं भी नहीं मर पाऊँ. मतलब ऐसा कुछ सीन है. मतलब बेसिकली दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट लाइक दिस सिली थिंग्स अबाउट हुज वेट इज मोर एंड हु इज गोइंग टू डाई फर्स्ट. इस तरह का मतलब बात. एंड देन दे डिसाइड दैट दे आर नॉट डाइंग एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. दैट वाज माय फर्स्ट इंट्रोडक्शन टू nihilism, and I found this so interesting and I could connect to it, you know. And then I have never read about it properly. I have never really like gone into it. I'm kind of afraid of it in a way. Also, there are like these basic terms that I have understood, like what is existentialism and what is nihilism and things like that. And I'm afraid to go deeper because it is scary, because I know that it is going to affect me in a way that probably there can be a no way back for me. So that is how nihilism, but I connect to the whole idea, and I keep. So there is this reference of Godot in my film. So last character जो आता है वो लंबा बाल वाला बंदा Horse from Heaven में. हाँ, वो बैठा होता है तो उसको पूछता है कि तुम्हारा नाम क्या है, तो वो बोलता है Godot.
I recall now.
So it is not very I have not made it obvious कि मतलब अगर तुमने वो बुक पढ़ा नहीं होगा तो you will feel very क्या है, मैंने बुक ही नहीं पढ़ा है, मैं क्या फिल्म देखूं. But I don't believe in such kind of a thing. But मेरे खुद के ट्रिप के लिए मैंने वो डाल दिया है उसमें.
कुछ चीजें होती है खुद के ट्रिप के लिए डाल दो.
So people who have watched the play or now even if you watch it now, the same part, it becomes interesting now, because it is like, because I feel that my film is Horse from Heaven is an extension of Waiting for Godot in a way. There is a man, like what is Waiting for Godot? Why are these people waiting? They're just waiting and waiting. Why? There is no answer to it. So people who have tried to explain who Godot is, intellectually they have explained it as either Godot is hope or he is false hope. Some people do call Godot as God. So, and it means the same. Either God is hope or God is false hope. So when I think of my film also, it is kind of like that a man who thinks his horse to be a donkey. It's also maybe this is hope. Maybe Goti, the donkey, or the horse is a hope, or maybe he is a false hope. Maybe believing in Goti will never help that man in any way, or maybe it will never take him anywhere. There will always be depression for him, always be. But maybe it helps him in a different way. Maybe he has the company of a false hope or a hope, and to move on in life. Maybe God is like that. Maybe God does not exist, or maybe God. It exists so that you can just move on in life.
Yeah, probably.
For some people, yeah.
I've had my fair share of who God is, asking questions like these.
Yeah.
I've recently been listening to a lot of Osho. Have you heard that guy?
Yeah. Few things.
My first introduction to Osho was this Netflix documentary called Wild Wild Country.
Yeah, fuck, that's
crazy
amazing,
fucking
crazy
documentary.
Crazy.
Like I watched it when I was in 12th. So I watched it and I was like, okay.
But that
just
film
like
is kind of it's not really going into Osho, right? Like it's kind of a very outsider's way of looking at it, right? Like, they are not introducing him as such.
That documentary was basically about when Osho went to the US and built this
Basically, the
Rajneeshpuram.
villainization part of him, like
Yeah, exactly.
it's kind of villainizing
Yes.
documentary.
So I watched that
Yeah.
thing and I was like, okay, again, one more cult.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
And 2-3 years, didn't watch a single thing. Recently got into his sermons that he recorded when he was in Pune.
Okay.
So he recorded his Hindi sermons. You can get it on Spotify. There are a lot of
Okay.
them on YouTube. And started listening to them. I'm like, this guy is talking about crazy shit here. Like, you should probably listen to him. And
Yeah.
unlike any guru, Sadguru, whatever,
I know.
all of them,
It's very
Osho
different.
is really different.
Yes.
Two people who are like really different. One is Osho and one is Jiddu Krishnamurti. So I started listening to Osho. Osho was talking about Kabir a lot. So I got interested in Kabir. And there's this really interesting film called Had Anhad.
How again?
Had Anhad. Had means limit and Anhad is limitlessness.
Okay.
So this is a film by Shabnam Virmani.
Okay.
So I'll tell you so it's a documentary film, and Shabnam Virmani was went throughout India and also some parts of Pakistan to find Ram.
Okay.
So in '93 there was this
Demolition.
Yeah, demolition, and she first went to Ayodhya and started talking to people there about who is Ram. And she started inquiring people about Ram. And throughout her journey, she found Kabir. And she got interested into Kabir. And then she asked about Kabir. She started talking about Kabir, went to Pakistan and they talked to several people there, find about Kabir. That film is really interesting. Like
Okay.
I watched it a long time back. I recently watched it
Please send me
again.
the name.
Yeah, for sure,
It's
for
very
sure.
interesting, man. The
So
name itself.
I watched that, and that I feel like Osho's version of what God is or what spirituality is, or Kabir's version of what God is, spirituality is. I feel much more attuned to that than the traditional, whatever pseudo spirituality that's sold on YouTube right now.
Even whatever I have heard of Osho, like I've seen interviews here and there, and it's very interesting. Like I would like to know more about him, how he thinks. It's quite interesting. It's not like any daily godman anyway. So yeah, let's see.
One thing that he talks about is you should probably start from a place of disbelief. Because if you start from a place of belief, then you're already believing in it.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no space for questioning.
Yeah,
So you should probably build your way to belief through disbelief.
through disbelief.
And the thing you talked about that you're scared to probably go into and read up about nihilism or absurdism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel it's a journey when you're probably shit scared when you read them and you're like, there's nothing ever that could happen and that could make sense of it all. And then you probably are past that at some point. And then you're like, you get comfortable with there being no fucking meaning on this earth. You're like, yeah, okay, chalta hai.
I think that is existentialism. I'm kind of interested in existentialism because people keep asking you in your daily life, do you believe in God? And like I said, God does exist probably in a different form that we cannot define, or so it's in your head. And it gives you comfort, then God exists. If it makes your life better, then God exists. I have no complaint against any religion because they exist. Because I feel that they have come into existence because of a need of the society, a need of the time of when they existed or when they exist, even at present times. But when you think of, if you become attached, it becomes problematic, right? Like when you think that Ram is the only God, or Allah is the only God, or Jesus Christ is the only messenger of God, then there is a problem. Then the whole problem starts and it can end anywhere. We can't imagine where it can end, and we have already seen it all throughout history. So then God does not exist. Then there is no point of God. Why do we need God to make the world a worse place than where we are existing? For that, why do we need God? So yeah, so existentialism, I think comes after, like I am not an expert in it, but whatever I have understood is that after nihilism, existentialism comes, and in a way that, okay, fine, God does not exist. There is no meaning to life. There is no point of, and we are just living some coincidences that are happening, and that is what our existence is. It's just a coincidence, and there is no point of anything. Fine. After that, what? After that, I live to make films. I live to say for my loved ones. I live to question the society about its bad things that exist in the society. These are meanings that we give to our own lives. I think that is existentialism, and I think that is a thing kind of that you are talking about. That you're gone past it, past of the thought that okay, God exists, it does not exist. This life had meaning, it does not have meaning. We are coincidences. Okay, now what? Should we die? Nihilists won't die because there is no meaning of dying. So they won't die. So what if we are not living and we are not dying? We can give some definition to our living, and we can do that consciously. If that makes our lives better, then I think that's beautiful. Then there is God, and there is life as meaning, and everything is beautiful. I mean,
Have you answered the question, why do you make films? Have you asked it to
I
yourself?
have asked it. I ask it quite often to myself. The answer has changed over time, I feel. The answer, when I first stumbled upon the idea that I wanted to make films, was because I wanted to bring an Oscar award.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, I mean, not
Yeah.
yet, but probably.
Yeah, it's kind of it's actually interesting because I had in class 8, when I was like sure that okay, now I'm going to make film. Like there was again a breakup with a girl, and so I was thinking, what should I do now? My life is destroyed. So there was a friend. Her name was Konkona, and she told me that why are you falling in love with people? You should fall in love with what you want to do in life, your aim in life. And I said, yeah, she does make sense, but what is my aim in life? I have nothing that I can call as my aim in life. I was into theater and all, but that day,
So
next
you were
day, actually,
acting then?
I was acting. I was
Okay.
acting since a child. I mean, I was in class 4 probably. I've been into children theater for around 12, 14 years,
Okay.
on and off, like after 12
Do you
years.
still act?
I don't act now, but I'm still connected to the children theater group that I used to work for, and connected. But now I don't have the leverage actually. Time, I don't have that kind of time right now. But I want to act. Like, as an actor, though, I really want to act. I keep asking my filmmaker friends to cast me, but nobody does, man.
Yeah.
So I thought the next day when I went to school, they had announced this Slumdog Millionaire has won an Oscar.
Okay.
So that was the day, and I felt like, okay, this is great news. And then I realized, okay, this is a foreigner making a film on in India and winning an Oscar. So I told to myself that okay, I am going to make a film that will win an Oscar, and it will be made in India.
Yeah.
So that's how the whole journey of filmmaking started for me. That I can remember because I was a child. Maybe it had started before or after, I don't know. But
I would assume कि एक दिन सोचा होगा कि I'll probably bring an Oscar.
हाँ.
8वीं के बच्चे तो भूल जाते हैं ना, दूसरे दिन फिर astronomer बनना होता है, या कुछ और बनना होता है.
पर
You
मेरे
actually
लिए
stuck
थोड़ा
to
सा
it.
वो I have still been stuck to it. I don't know why and how, but I have been. It just grew eventually. Like I started asking people because I was into theater and I knew people here and there. So slowly I got to know. By the time I was in class 10, I got to know that there is something called a film school. There is SRFTI, FTI, and I wanted to be there. And I started to like ask people, how do you go there? What do you need to study to be there? Get admission in SRFTI or FTI. Mostly FTI. SRFTI बाद में पता चला. FTI के बारे में तब पता था. किसी ने मुझे बोल दिया कि साइंस पढ़ना होता है वहाँ पे जाने के लिए, तो मैंने साइंस पढ़ लिया. स्कूल में झगड़ा करके स्कूल में मुझे मतलब मेरा मार्क्स उतना ज़्यादा नहीं आया था, तो आई हैड टू गिव अनदर एग्ज़ाम in class 10 to just get science.
Acha.
And I got
You
into
didn't even
science.
bother to cross check that.
There was actually at that point in time information was not that easily available. है ना?
हाँ.
तब तो अगर आपको मतलब इंटरनेट चाहिए तो you have to go to a
अच्छा, it's pre-Jio era.
pre-Jio. It's pre-Airtel, Aircel. I did not have a phone at that time. We had a phone. We had a 1100 phone at that time, which is a black and white Nokia ka phone at home.
Achha.
That's the phone we had. And I think at that time it was in 2008-9 kind
अच्छा,
of time.
फिर
So
तो क्या ही.
हाँ, तो इंटरनेट के लिए भी मतलब इंटरनेट पार्लर कैफे उसमें जाना पड़ता था. तो हाँ, नहीं पता चला, मुझे लगा कि यही है सत्य. तो मैं गया, साइंस पढ़ा. साइंस पढ़ने के बाद मुझे लगा कि एक अभी ग्रेजुएशन चाहिए होता है SRFTI में जाने के लिए. तो इट्स अ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन कोर्स.
सारे कोर्स पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन कोर्स है.
सारे पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन है.
FTI में तो प्रॉब्ली बैचलर कोर्सेज भी है.
नहीं है.
FTI में भी नहीं है.
हाँ, सारे पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन डिप्लोमा सर्टिफिकेट्स हैं. इवन
आई गेस प्राइवेट फिर ये वेस्लिंग वुड्स वगैरह.
हाँ, वो सब तो देते हैं. काफी जगह पे है एक्चुअली. ये जो एशियन फिल्म स्कूल है वो यहाँ पे मारवाड़ स्टूडियोज जिसको बोलते हैं, नोएडा में है. वहाँ पे भी मतलब BSc इन फिल्म मेकिंग बहुत सारे कोर्सेज देते हैं. पर FTI और SRFTI में नहीं मिलता है.
पोस्ट
ग्रेजुएशन डिप्लोमा और पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन सर्टिफिकेट कोर्सेज भी कुछ होते हैं और कुछ डिप्लोमा कोर्सेज होते हैं. तो बेसिकली सीरियस ही हो गया ये. मैं मतलब फिर तो शुरू हो गया था चीज़ें. क्लास में एक बार मैम के साथ, एक टीचर के साथ आर्ग्यूमेंट भी हो गया था. बहुत गाली दे रही थी मुझे कि तुम क्लास में कुछ अच्छे से करते नहीं हो, कुछ नहीं करते हो. तो मैंने बोला तुम लाइफ में क्या करोगे. और मैं भी मतलब था थोड़ा सा बदमाश तरीके का बंदा. मैंने बोल दिया कि फिल्में बनाऊंगा. और फिर मैंने बोला कि क्या फिल्म बनाओगे. एंड देन शी ऑल्सो गॉट इंटरेस्टेड बिकॉज शी वॉज आवर आर्ट टीचर. शी वॉज इंटरेस्टेड एंड शी स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग. एंड देन I told her that I'm going to bring an Oscar. And we made a deal. We made an agreement, a proper agreement. पेपर में लिखा मैंने. साइन करा. मैम ने भी साइन करा था और कुछ विटनेसेस भी थे जिन्होंने साइन किया था उसमें. कि अगर जब मुझे ऑस्कर मिलेगा तो मैम को मैं थाईलैंड ले जाऊंगा और वहाँ पे मैं मेरा सक्सेस पार्टी दूंगा. इस तरीके का कुछ था. So it stayed with me. It never left. So my life circulated around the idea of that I have to make films. It was always that. अभी तो और मतलब कुछ और करना ही नहीं है, पता ही नहीं क्या करे. इंजीनियरिंग के टाइम पे भी वही था, फिल्में बनाना था. इंजीनियरिंग क्या, क्योंकि ग्रेजुएशन चाहिए था
ताकि SRFTI में जा सके.
हाँ, उसके बाद SRFTI FTI में पढ़ना था तो ग्रेजुएशन चाहिए था. और इसमें मुझे गवर्नमेंट कोटा मिल गया था. तो आई हैड टू गिव वेरी नॉमिनल फीस. 40,000 में हो गया मेरा इंजीनियरिंग. तो मैंने कर लिया वैसा.
So at that time, the answer to the question, why do you make films, was probably I want to bring an Oscar.
Yeah.
What is it right now? You said it's changed over time.
Obviously, it has changed. Now, all these things really don't matter to me at all. I have felt at times that I make films because I want to express things that are going inside me. This I had thought for a long time. For a long time, I also wanted to talk about Assam and Northeast and stories that are not being portrayed in cinema. So I wanted to bring in those, and I wanted to make films because of that. But now I feel that there is no answer to this question, and I have kind of made peace with the idea in a way that it is a way of life. Cinema is my way of life. There is no definition to why I make films. I make films to make films. There is nothing more to that. There is no answer to why to that question. बस बनाता हूँ. और कुछ नहीं आता है बनाना, या फिर और कुछ करना ही नहीं. मतलब that is the only point of my existence, that I make films. There is no other. There are things that affect me. और ये सब को लेके क्या फिल्म बनाऊंगा उसके ऊपर बहुत सारी चीज़ें आ सकती है. पर सिनेमा इज़ माई वे ऑफ लाइफ. अच्छे जैसे हम सुबह उठ के ब्रश करते हैं, फिर हम लोग मुंह धोते हैं, खाना खाते हैं. आई थिंक सिनेमा इज लाइक दैट. इफ आई डू दैट, मतलब मैं सुबह उठता हूँ, उठ के सोचता हूँ कि आज सिनेमा का क्या काम करना है, आज कौन सा फिल्म देखना है, आज किसका इंटरव्यू देख सकते हैं. दैट इज व्हाट आई डू. कि कोई फिल्म का पोस्ट रह गया है क्या, या फिर कुछ स्क्रिप्ट का कुछ आगे बढ़ा सकता है. बट नॉट जस्ट मी, मोस्ट ऑफ द फिल्म मेकर्स डू दैट. लाइक दैट इज अ वे ऑफ लाइफ, आई थिंक.
So,
But it's a very difficult question to answer.
yeah, probably you're gonna struggle with that throughout your life,
Throughout
and
my life,
probably,
yeah.
जैसे you said ना कि you made poetry of schools and then Horse from Heaven, and in hindsight you could probably get those were about loneliness. So probably each individual project in hindsight you would probably get कि अच्छा ठीक है इस reason की वजह से बना.
Someday. Yeah.
पोट्री ऑफ विस्पर्स में देयर इज दिस सीन जहाँ बिस्वा की जो गर्लफ्रेंड होती है वो उसे बोलती है कि दीज आर माई पर्सनल इमोशंस एंड तुम इसे मेरे अपने फिल्म के लिए यूज़ कर रहे हो, तुम्हारे लिए बस सब सिनेमा ही है. आई एम लाइक डूड दैट्स लाइक सच स्ट्रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट. मैंने को देखा है, आई एम लाइक मैंने थोड़ी देर फ़ोन रखा, आई एम लाइक डूड ये मेरे को भी कभी भी सुनने को मिल सकता है, एंड एट टाइम्स मिला भी है. बिकॉज मेरे को लगता है सारे आर्टिस्ट इस चीज़ से स्ट्रगल करते होंगे एट डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स इन देयर लाइफ, जहाँ दे यूज सम, दे आर प्रॉब्ली हैविंग एन एक्सपीरियंस राइट नाउ इन प्रेजेंट मोमेंट एंड दे आर लॉस्ट समवेयर थिंकिंग अबाउट हाउ कैन आई यूज इट इन माई आर्ट. एंड हाउ डिड यू अराइव एट दैट, लाइक वो जो चीज़ थी
वो वही था.
इंटरेस्टिंग
वो वही था, मतलब लाइक आई टोल्ड यू ना, इट becomes after I am trying to make a film. एक कहानी जब होता है उसके बाद वो एक्सप्लोरेशन शुरू होता है खुद के साथ. मैं ये फिल्म क्यों बनाना चाहता हूँ, ये फिल्म का क्या मतलब है. हालांकि ये जो सेंटेंस है ये मुझे उस लड़की ने कभी नहीं बोला था.
I was probably thinking कि पूछूंगा कि असली में ऐसे ही हुआ था.
हाँ, उसने कभी नहीं बोला था. और जब फिल्म मतलब उसने देखा तो उसने मुझे यही पूछा था, मतलब यू नो लाइक जब फिल्म देखा उसने, मैंने उसको पूछा कैसा लगा तुझे, और उसने मुझे यही बोला अच्छा है, और कुछ नहीं बोला उसने. लाइक इन द फिल्म ही आस्क्स हर कि मेरा पोएम कैसा लगा, शी सेज हाँ अच्छा है. दैट्स द सेम वे शी रिप्लाइड, अच्छा है, पर तूने ये क्यों यूज़ किया. मैंने तो कभी तुझे ऐसे क्वेश्चन नहीं किया था कि मेरा इमोशन यूज़ कर रहा है, कुछ कर रहा है, ये तो मैंने कभी नहीं बोला था. वो तूने झूठ क्यों बनाया फिल्म. I had no answer to it, but I think I did it because it was about me. It was about pointing finger at myself that what the fuck am I doing by making this film. क्या मतलब है इस फिल्म का, इस फिल्म को बनाने के बाद या फिर पहले, या फिर इसका एग्जिस्टेंस ही क्या है इस फिल्म का. क्या मैं ये फिल्म इसीलिए बना रहा हूँ क्योंकि मुझे इससे आर्ट बनाना है, या फिर इसका कुछ भी मतलब है या नहीं है. मतलब दिस क्वेश्चंस व्हेन दे कीप ऑन डिस्टर्बिंग मी, एट सम पॉइंट आई फेल्ट दैट दिस क्वेश्चन शुड कम इन द फिल्म अबाउट आस्किंग कि, और ये हमेशा होता है लाइक यू सेड, कीप्स ऑन हैपनिंग. इवन नाउ आई मेड अ डॉक्यूमेंट्री फिल्म and I keep on questioning myself whether मतलब वो बनाना चाहिए था या नहीं चाहिए था, या फिर कोई भी फिल्म for that matter, because things are from our personal lives, and every film for that matter has something to do with people who you love. At least for me, people who I love, who I really care about. It's not about whether they are there in my life or not there or whatever. That's a different thing. But like they existed and they have an existence even within me, even now. And I have to respect that, I feel. So that is why I asked that question to myself. And there was no answer to it.
Did you feel you were being selfish?
Yeah, I felt it. Like that's why I kept that question, because I felt that I am being selfish by making this film. This is a very, very personal emotion. This is something that only that girl and I had experienced, and actually I had experienced, and I had told her that, see, about your mother I want to make a film. That your mother is not there anymore, and that is so personal to her. That is probably the most personal thing that she had at that point in time, and she agreed to it. But even if she agrees or she doesn't agree, I'm already being into a space which I have um, no right that way to be in. Whenever we are making a film, we are doing that. So it's a question that keeps on coming, and it came at that time. It disturbed me for a long time whether I should make this film, and eventually I kept that line and got rid of it, got rid of myself.
Yeah, so that was your atonement
Yeah.
in a way. इस फिल्म में लाइक ये जो मेटा एलिमेंट्स बोले आपने कि लास्ट में वो पैन आउट करता है एंड देयर इज द फिल्म क्रू putting stuff into the script that's like you questioning yourself. There's this film called Adaptation by Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah.
एंड मेरे को लगता है उसमें और इसमें काफ़ी सिमिलैरिटीज इन द सेंस कि दैट्स अ राइटर राइटिंग अबाउट अ फिल्म एंड then at some point you don't even know if it's about the writer in the film writing about the film or this is the writer writing the film.
Okay.
And it sort of get confusing.
Actually, you are not the first person who has suggested me this film. There's a friend called Jose Jacob from Kerala. He's a very good friend of mine. Very nice filmmaker also. He had suggested me this film and some other films of Kaufman. Yeah, but I think a lot of people have done it. Like Brechtian theory is all mostly about this, about how you break the fourth wall and how. So the breaking of fourth wall is actually a very political thing to do. Like now it's a style that people use all the time in cinema nowadays. But how Brechtian idea theater existed, or what it means to break a fourth wall, is a very political statement. When you are watching a play and suddenly you tell the audience that, hey, wake up, this is just a play. Hey, wake up, this is just a film. You're being emotional about a film, and some character who is feeling bad at this point, this is just an actor. I mean, that is Brechtian idea. That is breaking of fourth wall. It's not about showing film बन रही है या फिर कहानी लिखी जा रही है. It is not about that. It has deeper meaning to it. कि questioning your existence as artists is what Brechtian idea is, I feel. And वो मैंने बाद में मुझे पता चला, पर उस टाइम पे भी एटलीस्ट मुझे ये पता था कि मुझे ऐसा एक मतलब अभी भी लगता है बहुत लोगों को कि वो जो मैंने वो किया है, पैन किया और दिखाया सेट को, बहुत लोगों को अभी भी लगता है कि a lot of people, okay, like a lot of people love this film, and they only have one complaint or one thing to tell me always, that they did not like that part where I showed a set.
Acha.
A lot of people have told me, very close friends, very good audience, and people have told me that they did not like, and I completely accept their.
Why do you think that is?
That is because it breaks at a point where you stumble. You stumble to grab your sense, because the girl is in a situation where the father comes and she's about to tell something to him, and he sees her with the phone, and she looks at him with his serious, intense look, and he looks at her, and suddenly I cut. This disturbs a lot of people. That why did you end it here? Why did you have to end it here? Just let me see more of it. What did she tell him? What did he tell her? I want to be in it, but I break. So that is one thing, and the other thing is that they think that the film, showing film within a film, is kind of a showing
it's
it
like a gimmicky thing.
Gimmick, gimmick is the word. So so they say, a lot of people say that it's a very gimmicky point in the film. But that is what, like, when I was making the film, I was very aware of it. Like, I knew that it is a very crucial point where when I'm showing film within a film, it can become gimmicky, because this is something that people use all the time nowadays. Like something that people have used over and over. And when I use it in my film, there's a huge chance that it will feel gimmicky. Even my professor, my mentor, Putul Mahmood, she also told me the same thing, that this is gimmicky. You just remove this and end the film. But I did not feel like doing it, and I made what I made. And I felt that it's not gimmicky for me, but I can't help if somebody feels it's gimmicky. Then it is gimmicky for them. It's okay.
Personally, for me, that worked. And for me, again, the ending wasn't probably there. For me, the ending was that guy calling Bimal, and Bimal is talking to
Somebody,
probably his girlfriend on the phone, and like you tied that up really well.
Yeah.
So I really like the way you write, by the way. I was probably thinking, like, what are the inspirations? Writing में specifically.
Writing में.
स्क्रीन राइटर्स कुछ फॉलो करते हो या फिर जो भी, where does this sense of writing come from? Because writing is really interesting to me.
I think मेरा एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है, मैं बहुत कम पढ़ता हूँ. I read very less, so I watch a lot of films. So I think it comes from the films that I love and writers that I have seen films of, or seen interviews, or people I've met. But I don't know. I think it is. I had a huge influence of a good writer who is Anurag Kashyap. Influence of him in my life when I was trying to make films. I think Anurag Kashyap is a very good writer.
For
Very
sure.
good writer.
Apparently he writes in like पता नहीं 1-2 महीने में वो 3-4 फिल्में लिख
फिल्में लिख
देता है.
देता है. कल ही बात कर रहा था मैं, मेरा एक दोस्त है विशाल चलिया, वो बोल रहा था कल कि ही इज अ बेटर राइटर देन अ डायरेक्टर. मतलब ही इज अ ग्रेट डायरेक्टर, बट ही इज अ बेटर राइटर देन अ डायरेक्टर. And I kind of agree to it, because he writes some things which are really it's very humanly and theatrical at the same time. Like there is this idea that you make realistic films. I have a huge problem with that. Cinema can never be real. Come on, let's accept it. It's not real. It cannot be real. And it can only be a it can be a feeling of reality. You should feel that it is real. When you, like, there are actors, like a lot of actors nowadays, kind of, because of Nawazuddin and all these people who have come, then a lot of other actors after that there is this idea of underacting. That they act subtle. That they act in a way that they are not acting. They do not want to say, and they say it like, "बस बोल दिया, बस बोल दिया." They just say it in their mouth. But that whole idea, that you are looking for something which is not possible. When you talk about realistic cinema, does not exist. How can realistic cinema exist? Real cinema does not exist. How can something be real? Nothing is real. Even documentary films are not real. No documentary film is real, because you are placing a camera there. When you place a camera, it's not real, and nothing is real.
I mean, what you're capturing is probably real, but at the editing stage, you're probably going through a narrative. Ki, Acha, this is the narrative that I'm building.
Even when you are capturing, you're capturing only a frame. You are not capturing what is outside it. You cannot capture different spaces. You're at a particular point in time, in a particular point in space, you're shooting one frame, one rectangle. So it's already, your politics is there, your intention is there, and outsiders existence is there. So nothing is real. What I feel, that the cinema or acting or any form of art for that matter, when it aims to be, it is about the final product. Like, say, the form of melodrama. Bollywood is completely melodrama, and Bollywood or even Hollywood is melodramatic, and a lot of our films, even my films, are melodramatic for that matter. At least I feel like that. So when you talk about melodrama, what melodrama is something where you accentuate something, where you extend the reality, where you play with the reality. Suppose I am sad, and I'm not just sad, I'm crying. That is melodrama. But that is not that is not just melodrama. Melodrama is when you're using other elements to increase this emotion. Like say I'm sad, I'm sitting like this, and in the background, if Kurosawa, for example, what would Kurosawa do? Kurosawa would have a rain shower in the background or air gust. There will be nature intruding into his frame. When he does that, what happens is that it evokes an emotion. That evokes, like, and I think that is melodrama. That is the good use of melodrama, and that is what it makes you more. It makes the whole lie more believable. When you are saying that I walked by the road and I saw a man lying on the ground, you're saying this. Okay, it's a lie, and you are telling me this. It can be, I might believe or I might not believe, but if you tell me that when I was going past by the bus stop in, say, Ulubari, when I walked a little bit 5 foot ahead, and there was like there was a policeman standing there, and as I passed, I suddenly saw a man who is lying. You go into the details, and then you say that the man was covered with blood. I could only see blood all over, and so when you're making it more lie, you're lying more and more. It becomes more real to you. The other person will start
That's
believing in it,
interesting.
right? Like he'll say, "Oh yeah." When you say just I saw a man,
Uh,
for him it's not real. But when you say a man full of blood, he'll start imagining a man full of blood, and it will become real for him. So, that is what I feel is cinema. Like when we are using any form for that matter, like any kind of form in cinema, say a musical film. How can musical films exist in the world if what we are searching is realistic cinema?
yeah.
There's no point of them, but they exist. People still watch them. For theater too, it's even absurd. Like Ram Lila, the story, Bhavna that is performed in Assam. Any kind of this epic theaters or like this theater, traditional theaters, you know the story. We are still going, still believing that this is a new play, and you're still enjoying at every point. Why? Because it's true. Because the form is believable. The way you are served is beautiful. It is not. The lies are beautiful. So the lies are more truer than the truth. That is what I feel, and I think cinema is that. Cinema is about the truth. You are trying to tell a truth.
Yeah,
That
you're
is
using
the final.
lies.
You're using lies to tell the truth. And that is the most beautiful thing about cinema. I mean, it's contradictory in itself. And when there are contradictions, it's beautiful.
I guess it was Anand Gandhi who said ki the difference between bad films and good films are lies that you used to tell the truth. Bad films are basically lies that you used to tell lies.
Ah, interesting.
Which is really interesting.
But then reality and truth are again, it's a different conversation altogether. Like you understand, right? There is a truth. There's a scientific truth. Science would say that this is Coke. But if I am a theater artist and I start performing, this can become the mic. It can replace the mic, and I can start singing in it, and you will look at it as mic. You will believe in it. Whatever I tell you, you'll believe. You'll start believing, and that is, I think, that is the power of the lies that we are talking about. But then, like it's subjective, no? Like it's very subjective. Like for, I mean, truth is one truth, and realities are different. Like for someone who believes in God, his reality will be completely different than mine who does not believe in God. Right? But is anybody lying?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. I
Probably not.
think I think that is These things are more like Anand Gandhi said. I don't know. I'm not saying that he is wrong, but there is another side to it. Like it can be lies that you are telling, but who says they are lies?
That's also
Yeah, that's again
something that
subjective, no?
matters.
Yeah.
So you were talking about we digressed a bit. We were talking about Anurag Kashyap
Yeah.
and Anurag Kashyap's writing, and you feel he's a better writer than a director.
See, it's I don't know, man. Like I think he's a very good writer,
Ah.
but there are people who have inspired me even after I had gone past the Anurag Kashyap phase. There are some extremely good writers or filmmakers whose films I am always inspired from. But like I feel that when I'm writing, there's a process that I follow, which I think is very that helps my writing. So what I do is I write whatever comes to my mind, and after that I try to say the same things in the minimum words possible, uh, and I think that helps. That helps. That then I can reduce as much as I can, and only the crux of or the humor of the whole dialogue that remains. And I think that is a very important part of it for writing.
So first step is to just blurt out everything.
Blurt out everything, but then there is another thing like that I feel is very important when we are writing scripts. Is that there are some rules to screenwriting or dialogue writing. So these rules are very important. Like you can always break them, but then they're important to know. So important thing to write screenplay is that you should always remember that when there are two characters, they cannot be the same. They cannot agree. If they're agreeing, it's a boring film. It's a boring conversation.
हाँ भाई ऐसा है, हाँ भाई ऐसा है, ठीक है.
So there is no humor there. There is nothing that is intriguing there. There is nothing that the conversation is going towards.
There's no conflict.
No conflict. So no conflict, then no interest, and no like there are no 2 points where you are going to. Like there is no intensity to it because you are not interested anymore. It's just staying in the same place. It's not moving anywhere. So that is one thing that I generally keep in mind, and I make the characters fight. Like you say something, the other character will say something that you are not expecting that the other character would say. If say your character is saying something, the next dialogue cannot be what you are expecting me to say or the audience is expecting me to say. If it is, then it's a failed writing. So these are some things that I keep in mind, but these are very basics. But once I write the dialogues, I reduce it, and I think mostly I can get to where I want to.
So how many drafts before you get to the crux of it?
I don't know, man. Like for a lot of my friends, they write like 30-40 drafts, but I cannot write so much. Most of the times I actually end up writing only after I have the complete idea of how the film is going to be. Till then I'm writing, but I cannot consider them as proper drafts as well, because they are like, because in my mind there is a different film that I want to reach to. And I'm like at this point in like right now with the film that I'm trying to make, I have already written 2 drafts of it, but then I cannot, I know this is the film that I want to make, but this is not the film that I want to reach to. There is something that I'm looking for, Until then, I don't think they're drafts. They're just ideas, floating ideas that I'm like noting down. But once the idea is clear to me that okay, this is the film, and I can see the film, I write it, and that is the block script. So generally, I have written to around 8 to 10 scripts for all my films, 8 to 10 drafts for all my scripts. Yeah.
Interesting. So when was your first film? Like when did you make your first film?
My first film I made in 2015. I was
in college then?
Yeah, in engineering, and Vishal Pritam Solia, like I told you some time back.
I've seen this guy's film.
Shijo, have you seen it?
Yeah,
Do you
I've
like
seen
it?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, very interesting.
I watched it when it was playing in some film festival It was an online film festival, I guess.
You must have watched it with VPN.
Yeah, I used VPN.
Yeah, I'm sure. He doesn't mind. He has done the same thing with other films. I'll tell him. But
My first thought was like your film, Bulu Film, and that I was like torrent pe jate hain, but I didn't get it.
Oh yeah. There are links to the film. Like now it's online available. Like it's on this ASSAMESE OTT platform called Real Drama.
Okay.
It's available there. Yeah.
Acha.
So you can watch it there, or I can send you a link, or maybe like that. Said. So yeah. So Vishal and I were friends in class 10. We had never met each other, but he wanted to become an actor, and I wanted to be a director. And we became friends because of Konkona, the friend who had told me to love my dreams. So we were very close. We became very close because of our dreams, Vishal and I. And in class 11, he came to SSA. There was some incident that happened, but he chose to come to SSA because I was there, and we studied together. And eventually, we this thirst to make films. It has already started growing for both of us. And I had met some wonderful people by then. I had met Vishal Sharma. He lived near my house, but he used to tell me that he wanted to edit films and he had no content to edit. So he would just edit random photos and videos that he would take with his phone. So Vishal and I were also friends, and there was this band called Old Delusions, I think, at that time. These amazing, talented people. They're musicians. They're still, most of them are into music. And they were in our group. So we knew all these people. I knew a lot of people. And one day, Vishal and I had DSLR cameras. We had bought DSLR cameras around the same time. Just after entering into my engineering, I had bought a DSLR and he did. So we started doing photography. Because somebody told us. So, all our ideas were based on what somebody else told us. What we should do. Somebody told us, if you want to make films, learn photography. Okay, photography then. So we bought cameras, and I had to my parents had agreed to buy me a motorcycle, a bullet, because I had told them there was some kind of I had told them that if I get 80% in HS, they will give me a bike and all that. So I didn't get 80, I got 17.8, but I had convinced them. But later, when I felt the need of the camera, I told them, no need, I don't need a bike. Give me a camera and a laptop because I need to make films. So they gave me the camera. So we started doing photography. So this kept on going till we ended up understanding that DSLR cameras can be used to make films.
Okay, by that time you had no idea.
We had no idea. We had DSLRs. We knew it could do video. We never thought that DSLRs can be used to make films. This is the early stage of digitalization, you can say. This is around 2015. So I think that for us, at least, for this part of the world, that was the beginning of digitalization. And that was our introduction to it. And one day we met a friend who made a film with our DSLRs. He called us to shoot a film, and we shot the film for him. And then it struck us then that we know people from theater who are good actors or good dancers, and we know people who can help us make the films, and they would work for us for free. At least if we are making a film, we can convince them too. And but we're not making films. We have cameras, we can make films, we're not making films.
Yeah.
Then we formed a group called Devka Films.
Okay, that's how that happened.
Yeah, that's how it happened. And then a lot of people came in. There were very interesting people in the group. There was Sostav. He passed away now in an accident last month. There was Rupchanda. There were a lot of people who. So Vishal Sharma came in and he started editing the films for us. So I made my first film. We shot the first film, which was called Behu. But I think I released it only after I got into SRFTI. I think in 2019 or 18 I released it.
बना के खुद के पास रख ली.
बनाते ही जा रहे थे उसको, एडिट ही करते जा रहे थे, खत्म ही नहीं हो रहा था. Like the name Behu, no? Behu means चक्रव्यूह ना, व्यू. So it's Behu in Assamese. वो चक्रव्यूह में फंस गया था और निकल ही नहीं रहा था फिल्म. तो फाइनली वो निकला. That was the first film that we shot. The first time when we went to shoot, whatever we shot was all overexposed. Everything. For 3 days we shot, and then I showed that footage to my theater teacher, Manik Roy sir. And he said that ये क्या शूट किया है, ये तो सारा overexposed है, क्या दिख ही नहीं रहा है कुछ भी, क्या हो रहा है. हमने बोला सर तो शूट हो गया है, फिर से करो. And we reshot again.
अच्छा. my.
Yeah. जब हम अपने बारे में बात करते हैं ना, तो we tend to go on and on. I feel like I have been going on for so long.
नहीं, ये format actually allow करता है, so there's no issue as such.
But please edit it, huh? It's a lot of things, repetitions and
जितना मेरे को लगेगा कि सही edit करना, because मेरे हिसाब से everything that we talked about is fine.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Yeah, the only thing that I am struggling these days with is that I have been repeating myself for people along.
I'm sure, because for the research of it, I watched several interviews of yours, and I felt कि अच्छा ठीक है, same stories are getting repetitive and whatever. And I was like, हाँ ठीक है, at some point तुमको करना होता होगा, because
I don't know, like because I'm very new to this kind of a thing. I did not expect such a. I did not expect कि ऐसा interview में जाना पड़ेगा ये सब. I had no idea ना. Like suddenly it happened after the Oscar thing, and people started asking for interviews, and it went on for some time. But after some few interviews, I was kind of fed up of it.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
Then it was a struggle to fight with myself to go and give an interview. The same questions are asked, and I have to say the same things because I cannot lie. I cannot make up stories now. It's the same thing that I have to tell. What the film is about, I'll tell the same thing. How did I start filmmaking? I have to say the same thing. So it really got into me, man. Like at a certain point, I was really mentally kind of disturbed by this idea that I have to again go somewhere and repeat myself. So I stopped doing that. For a long time, I did not go for any interviews. Recently, I've done 2, but that's so that's the only 2 things that I did. Otherwise, I generally don't want. The idea is to not repeat myself. But at the end of the day, it's just that.
I mean, अगर सवाल वही पूछा जा रहा है कि अच्छा कैसा लगा ऑस्कर में जाके,
तो वही बोलना पड़ेगा
at some point.
Yeah, sorry.
So
after this, ये ऑस्कर वाले चीज़ के बाद मेरे साथ ये हुआ, मुझे रशिया में जाने का मौका मिला. तो when I went and I won the best film there. So after I came back, I had this whole opportunity to like bombard the press with this news, because by that time I already knew people, and it's kind of a big thing to win in VGIK. So because it's the oldest film school in the world. So I could have but then I decided to not tell anyone. I just put a Facebook post and Instagram post and didn't tell anyone. Because I wanted some mental peace,
Yeah, I could get it. Most interviews are probably just
but then I also think about it that the audience probably is not the same. I hope they are not the same. I hope that every time I give an interview, it means something to somebody else.
I mean, until somebody is fucking obsessed with you, it's like watching every fucking interview, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
So I thought consciously I wanted this to not be the same.
Thank you, man. I am really happy about it, actually. That's why I mentioned
I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job right now.
You're doing a great job, man. I really love it.
Yeah. So you were telling me about your first film.
So we made that, Behu. And then while making that film, in the process, there was a filmmaking competition by Yes Bank. It was 3 days. We had to make 3 minute film. And it's like that 50 hours challenge. There is a 50-hour challenge filmmaking contest. Nowadays, it's quite common. At that time, it was not like that. It was quite rare to find a film festival like that. So basically, Yes Bank was asking for films to be made by people and 3 minute ka film. So we made a film for that. It did not work in that competition at all. But वो फिल्म ठीक ठाक बन गया था.
कौन सी फिल्म थी ये?
Crossroads.
Crossroads. Okay.
So it's on YouTube. So once वो बन गया तो we figured out that there are film festivals where we can send it to. We found Film Freeway, which is a website to send films across to festivals. So there are lots of festivals in Film Freeway which are free. You don't have to spend to send your film. You just have to send it with a click. So we started sending it across just like that. And one day we got a selection from a film festival in Malta Island, near France, somewhere like that. It was the most inspiring thing for us.
I'm sure.
That moment, that our film which we made with nothing, literally nothing. We shot in the garage in front of my house. The actors were my cousin and Baki, all these my friends, and people liked it, and it went to a festival, and then we started thinking that there are much more possibilities to what we are doing. And then the whole process began. We made more and more films, more and more festivals, and you know.
So Devka Films, what is it? Like a collective of artists that just bounce off ideas, make films. What is it exactly?
It started off as a collective. Actually, we didn't know it can be called a collective at that point. Now I do think it's a collective. It was a collective, but people have, with due course of time, have like stopped working or stopped working together. We had different journeys in our life. I went to SRFTI. Bishal was here. He was editing, but so basically at the end, Bishal Sharma and I are the only people who are left in a group, and we chose to continue it as the name, and so it's there. So it's just there. It's on YouTube, and but we have plans to keep it alive for a longer time. But it's for now we're not doing anything. Bishal lives in Bangalore and he's doing something else right now. But we are making films, and hopefully we'll just revive Devka again.
I don't want to get repetitive, but just out of curiosity, Oscars में film जाती कैसे यार? मतलब what's the process?
So there are different processes for feature film and different for short film. So feature film का क्या है ना कि हर country एक film भेजेगा nominate करके, मतलब अपने में से देखेगा कि there will be a committee, they will select कि ये film इस बार जाएगा Oscars, वो भेजेगा. For feature film that is the process.
अच्छा, वो short film के लिए नहीं होता.
Short film के लिए वो नहीं होता है. Short film के लिए क्या होता है कि there are two processes. One is there are some cinema halls in the US. I think कुछ region specific. US में उन cinema halls में अगर तुम release कर पाते हो अपना short film, तो then you can you are eligible to send it to Oscars. But releasing a film in the US is not possible most of the times. How are we going to release a short film that too it's a short film in a cinema hall, like a proper theater? So it's not possible most of the time. The second way and the only other way is to they have a list, film festival ka list. So Oscar qualified film festivals, they have qualified these festivals, and they have certain, suppose like I won in Bengaluru International Short Film Festival. So right now presently that is the only Indian film festival which is Oscar qualified, and two of its categories are qualified, the international winner and the national winner. They can send their films to the Oscars. That is the only festival right now which is Oscar qualified. So बाकी के जो segments है जैसे women cinema हो या मतलब ऐसे बहुत सारे categories होते हैं ना festivals में, उन सब में लेकिन वो उनके पास वो नहीं है, मतलब दे आर नॉट क्वालिफाइड.
दो ही कैटेगरीज
हाँ, दो ही कैटेगरी में विनर्स सिर्फ क्वालिफाइड है. सो लाइक दैट दे हैव अ होल लिस्ट ऑफ फेस्टिवल्स एंड देयर कैटेगरीज हु कैन सेंड द फिल्म टू ऑस्कर्स. देयर इज अनदर IDSFK which is a documentary film festival. उनका फीचर फिल्म और शॉर्ट फिल्म डॉक्यूमेंट्री फिल्म्स, तो बोथ डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज, लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट और शॉर्ट फॉर्मेट, बोथ आर एलिजिबल फॉर ऑस्कर्स.
अच्छा.
सो हाँ,
So आपकी जो फिल्म थी it won
Bengaluru
at
में
Bengaluru.
हाँ, we won. So they gave us a certificate, and they gave another certificate saying that the film is now eligible to be sent as an entry for the Oscars, and they sent it to the Oscar का जो मतलब उनका जो
They
ऑफिस है,
sent it.
they mailed it basically. They mailed and they CC'd us in the mail, and they sent it. So now they know that we are the people who are eligible. Our film, the name of the film is written, director's name is written. No? So after that, there is a whole process of how you enter the film. You have to like fill up form. फिर film का भी मतलब you have to upload in a particular website which has certain qualifications, like कितना मतलब फॉर्मेट क्या होगा, DCP होगा या फिर MP4
अच्छा,
होगा,
टेक्निकल चीज है.
तो you upload it. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Once it is submitted, Oscar will send a mail that we have successfully received all your things that was required. So it's an official entry. That's it.
So as such country wise as such नहीं जाता जैसे फीचर फिल्म्स के लिए जाता.
So basically कभी कभी ऐसा हो सकता है कि एक कंट्री से 2 फिल्म्स भी जा सकती है, क्योंकि वहाँ पे दो फिल्म्स ऐसी बनी होंगी जिसने 2 ऑस्कर क्वालिफाइड फेस्टिवल्स में अलग अलग करके जीता है. दे विल बी सेंट टू ऑस्कर्स. कभी कभी एक भी नहीं होता है दैट वे.
Interesting. So your film The Horse from Heaven, it has interesting humor. Like it's sort of weird, the humor, but nonetheless interesting. And was it because of the integration of Ojapali as an art form? Because I've heard ki it's a humor based art form. Does that sort of humor come naturally to you?
I think it comes naturally to me. Like I told you now, Anurag Kashyap का influence है एक time का. Like I'm not a big fan of him. Whatever he's talking right now, he's talking a lot of bullshit and all.
Yeah.
Anurag Kashyap. But nevertheless, he is a very good filmmaker and very good writer. And a very politically also he's very good, and that's why I used to expect a lot of things from him. Anyways, so उसका influence भी है writing में. So I think that humor is kind of something that I have always been attracted to. कि लोग किस तरह से एक बात बोलते हैं, क्या बोलते हैं, उससे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है कि कब और कैसे बोल रहे हैं, कहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं और कैसे बोल रहे हैं. Most of the times it's very funny, and I have observed that life is absurd in itself, absurd in that way कि कैसे हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं किसी से, अगर उसको अगर हम एक आउटसाइडर्स पर्सपेक्टिव से अगर देखना शुरू कर देना, लाइक दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन, अगर मैं अचानक से एक आउटसाइडर्स पर्सपेक्टिव से एक थर्ड आई से अगर मैं देखना शुरू करूं, then this conversation will also become humorous. Then there will only be certain tweaks and turns that I will have to do as a writer, but mostly this whole conversation will be a very comedy situation. And just imagine there are 2 cameras here and 2 people talking to themselves, and sometimes the conversation is not going anywhere, and one person is just talking about himself from a long time. And he is telling that he is talking about himself for a long time, and then he continues to talk about himself for a very long time. So that's how funny it is. Every situation in life is funny in its own way. There's a humor to it. Now, humor is a very interesting form because element, because it has its own forms, different forms. Now, I don't know anyone who has the same form as me because I have not found anyone like that till now. Maybe there will be a lot of people who share the same kind of humor as me, or filmmakers who share the same kind of humor as me. But I till now I haven't found. Closest to my humor that I found later after watching this film, my The Horse from Heaven. Mehdi Jahan is a filmmaker now. He teaches in SRFTI also. There is a friend. He told me that your film is similar to Aki Kaurismäki's film. And Aki Kaurismäki, I had heard about him and I had never seen his film. After he told me this, immediately I started watching Aki Kaurismäki. भाई जो फिल्म बनाता है ना,
अच्छा,
crazy, crazy. I am telling you, like, and when I watched it, I really felt कि fuck, he's very similar to how I think.
अच्छा, so क्या fantastical genre में बनाता है, क्या सीन है?
Fantastic नहीं बनाता है, fantastical भी होता है,
हाँ,
but absurd होता है.
अच्छा,
हाँ, so एक फिल्म है उसका जिसका नाम है Leningrad Boys Go America.
okay,
And it's about a band who will travel to America. And all these people, they are trying to crack a deal with someone who would record a record company, maybe probably like that, something that I forgot the exact story, but they are traveling to America. And everyone's hairstyle is like this, so the hair would be like this for everyone. So even when a kid is born in the family, the kid has hair like that. Okay. So it's absurd in that way.
Yeah.
Now they are all traveling and somebody dies and they are carrying the dead body with them. And उस dead body के मतलब it's humorous in this way कि मतलब ऐसा ही कुछ हो रहा है, एक बंदा बोलता है कि मतलब बियर कहाँ से मिल रहा है तुझे, बोलता है कि मेरे पास है, खत्म हो गया, एक ही था. Then eventually we figure out कि वो जो कॉफिन है उसके अंदर वो पूरा बियर डाल के लाया है.
अच्छा,
ताकि वो ठंडा रहे वहाँ पे, क्योंकि वो डेड बॉडी लेके जा रहे हैं ना, तो उसमें आइस है, तो उसमें वो पूरा बियर डाल के लाया है. मतलब इस तरह का एब्सर्ड मतलब ह्यूमर है उस फिल्म में. सो आकी कौरिस्माकी के फिल्म जैसे कि इट्स आल्सो टॉक्स अबाउट लोनलीनेस अ लॉट एंड ह्यूमर इन लोनलीनेस. दैट इज समथिंग दैट आई वाज रियली मूव्ड. आई फेल्ट दैट दिस इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू डू मे बी. उसके कुछ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग फिल्म, एक ला हावरे करके है, एक है अ मैन विथ नो नेम. So all these films are like that, like they're the actors, and it's not like slapstick, it's very deadpan.
yeah,
So people won't even there are no expressions in the faces. They look like people are dead and they're just there, they're just sitting like this and talking, going, working. All the people look like they are dead. And that I think is very interesting to me.
yeah, that sort of humor is for sure interesting.
And then humorous, you know. And then humor, like loneliness in this like way, and then there is humor. Like I feel like it's really like how I want to make my films.
Do you watch stand up, like
stand-up comedy? Yeah, I do. I think I watch that just for fun. I do.
There's this British comedian called Gimmick, and he has that sort of humor, like one-liners, but like deadpan delivery काफी.
Okay.
So
send me,
yeah, for sure. So you mentioned Anurag Kashyap and how you've not been agreeing with his ideas recently. I probably saw you disagreeing with Anurag Kashyap on the fact that he said कि film schools are not important, film schools are basically bullshit, or whatever he said in that interview. So like
he said क्या कर रहे हैं film school के लोग, कुछ भी तो नहीं कर रहे हैं, something like that. It just
he said
diminished the idea.
he said this कि film school से जितने लोग निकलते हैं वो फिल्में बनाते हैं बाकी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए, बाकी जो उनके कलीग्स है फिल्म स्कूल में, ऐसा कुछ बोलता है वो.
ऐसा ही कुछ बोलता है. वो बोलता है कि फिल्म स्कूल के जो लोग हैं वो कुछ बना ही नहीं रहे अभी. आप देख लो कितने डायरेक्टर्स हैं FTI से पास आउट जो है, मतलब फिल्म स्कूल के जो लोग हैं जो बॉम्बे में फिल्म बना रहे हैं. बेसिकली दैट आई हैव अ ह्यूज डिसएग्रीमेंट टू इट.
आई एम श्योर, बट even if you disagree with that, उसमें मतलब आई वोंट से कुछ सच्चाई होगी, बट रादर film schools might be important, but then again, what are the aspects of filmmaking that you learn by going to film schools, and what are the aspects जो तुम सीख ही नहीं सकते film schools से specifically, but rather making the films?
ऐसा कोई एस्पेक्ट नहीं है फिल्म स्कूल में
हाँ.
जो हम नहीं सीख सकते हैं खुद से.
हाँ.
But saying that, what happens in a film school is you get an environment. जैसे मैं अभी गुवाहाटी में हूँ, मुझे फिल्म बनाना है. How do I go about it? Who do I ask to help me to make the films? What films should I watch? How do I watch them? What kind of people should I know? How do people work in a set? This kind of things in a film school, you get a package of it. Secondly, what film school gives you, the most important thing is time for yourself. You have a huge time, and the time is just to spend with films and understand yourself. What kind of films you want to make, and you just keep watching films, making films. In this process, I have found a lot of things about me. Not myself, of course. It's a process. All throughout my life, I'll be doing that. But I found a lot of things about myself in this process. I'm not saying it is not possible to make films without going to film school. It definitely is. And people should make films. Who are not going to film school should definitely make films and are making great films. Vishal Shalia, he has never been to film school, but he has had his share of learning in his own ways. He has read books, he has made another film to understand filmmaking. So, it's like that. And the people you get company of in a film school are people who are solely there to give their life, their whole life means cinema to them. Most of them, they will be there because they have given this whole 3 years, 5 years, however the time is, that time just for cinema, just to learn cinema. So obviously the dimension changes, right? It is obvious. Like if you are trying to make films with yourself, with whatever you have, and you going to a film school, it changes things because you're meeting different kind of people, people who share the same kind of thoughts, same kind of or different kind of thoughts, but you are learning. And people who come from different parts of the country. Say in our film school, like from all over the country, people come and we meet together, we make films together. You learn a lot from these people and the conversations and from seniors and the rest of the things like books you can get, but there are rare books in the library. That's a different thing. But these films and these books you can get, but the experience of only spending this particular time with cinema, that I think is kind of, it's rare to create that in your life. It's kind of rare, or it's quite difficult to create. Even now when I am out of film school, like I'm almost out of film school, like I'm in Assam, I try to create such kind of a thing around me, but it's not possible.
I mean, somebody might argue that since it's more about the environment that film school provides you, if you are able to get that environment by being on a film set, won't it be the same sort of a thing? Apart from the fact that
it is not the same kind of thing. Being in a set, how are you? What is your role in a set is what defines what you are going to learn most of the times. You will definitely learn a lot of things from people. Like even in a film school, my seniors are shooting, I go to their set, I assist them and I learn from them. That is a huge chunk of learnings that I have got. Most of the learning it's like 60% of the learning that I have got in film school. At least 60 to 70% is in the set of shoots. But then definitely that is there. You can learn a lot. But in a film school, what you get is you're getting to make films that you want to make. Like if I am in Assam, say, like, see, that is where it is different. Like if I was in Bombay, it would have been a different scenario. If somebody is in Kolkata, it's a different scenario. If somebody is working in Assam, it's a very different scenario. We don't have an industry here. How can you choose with whom you are going to work? if you are trying to work and learn. With whom, which people are you going to work? What ideas are you going to work on? But in a film school, most of the people are quite similar minded. They have different ideas, their forms are different, their understandings are different, but at least they're similar in a way because they would understand what you are talking about. Like, and also, like, say, even in Bombay, it's an industry. When you're there, you get to learn, but it takes a long time to become a first AD or to become the director's assistant. It's not easy to break through. You have to probably be an intern in the beginning and just observe what is happening in the set, and then you slowly you try to get into one department, and then you keep on working. You learn, but it's an industry setup where you are making films to get money out of it. In film school, it is not the case. Here you're funded by the government, who is giving you money to make films. So it's a very different case. My problem with Anurag Kashyap's or like, it's not just him, it's an idea that you always have to oppose film schools. Even I say that people who have never been to film schools have made terrific films and will continue to make terrific films, and their films will have something new in them which film school students will never have,
Why is that?
because there is a whole baggage of time that you have spent. Everything has two sides, right? It's good in its own ways, but it's bad in a way because it's a baggage. You cannot think of a shot which does not come into the in the three, what is it called, three lines,
Rule of thirds.
rule of thirds.
Yeah.
So if it's not coming in rule of thirds, you cannot compose something like which is not in rule of thirds. But someone who has never been to film school might be able to create something like that without knowing the rules. But by knowing the rules, if you are still able to do that, then it's a different game. But see, when somebody comes from a completely virgin background, they have a certain kind of innocence in them because they have never been to a film school. They have never been taught all these rules, and they have never been bounded. So they are free to move, to make films. I think that is the case. But if you are getting a chance to be at a film school, I say that you must be at a film school to experience it. It's an experience to be at a film school, to learn. It's an experience that is something that will change, that changes our lives. For me, it has changed my life. And when somebody of that stature says that going to film school is of no use, my problem with that statement is that you're just standing in Bombay and saying it. You're just being a Bollywood director and saying it. You're not understanding the nuances to what it might mean to someone sitting in Guwahati or in Nalbari or in Dibrugarh or in Golaghat, somebody sitting and watching you say that, and their belief in the way that could have been a way to learn cinema will just break. They will never go to a film school now after that. They will maybe believe that film school is bullshit, but it's not. Like, for someone like me, would I have ever made a film like The Horse from Heaven if I was not at a film school? No. Not because of the ideas and things like that. The very technical things like the budget. I would never have such kind of a budget. I could never imagine to spend such kind of money for coloring the film. I could never have imagined making an independent film in Assam and coloring it from Mahek Gupta, who is one of the top colorists in Bollywood, India, basically. Working with one of the best cinematographers, people who are learning in film school, they have spent 3 years to learn the same department. They are specialized in that. I would not have been able to afford that, afford the kind of grandness or the camera that we shoot with. I'm shooting with a f55. I would never have been able to probably shoot it with if I was in Guwahati. At least a short film, to never. If it's a fiction, it has good opportunity to be sold. It's a different thing. But a short film which has no opportunity to be sold, no opportunity as such commercially, who would fund a film like that? So that is possible only if you are in a film school, I would say. But having said that, people who are not in a film school should keep making films, because that is the closest way to be in a situation. Not just the closest way, it's a great way to make films and learn film from making it. That is what I always tell my people who ask me what I should do. I say make films. And I think that is told by most of the filmmakers who I watch and who I admire. They say that you can only learn filmmaking if you're making a film.
The film schools probably just give you the luxury to fall
The
back
luxury,
on the
luxury.
fact
It's,
that
it's luxury. It's full luxury. It's a luxury that you cannot afford otherwise. Who would be interested to know about a film that is made by a Assamese guy in Guwahati, who is talking about a donkey and a horse? Who would have watched it? I have a tag that I am from a film school. I can send it to festivals and they might give importance to it. There are plus points to when you like. That's why they will watch it. Probably most of the festivals, when we send a film, they won't even watch a film. Our films, they will be just there and they will just stack it. Nobody will watch it. They'll watch when there is something interesting about it. You know, like I'm not saying that it's not possible. It's very possible for anyone to reach anywhere. Or you know, like at least cinema mein to, if you make a good film, it can go anywhere. But what I'm saying is the orientation. Say the orientation of what kind of films do you watch? How do you get to something like that? What kind of, so every day 2 films at least. It is not possible for me to do it now when I'm in Guwahati. I try to, but I cannot.
So are you one of those people जो मतलब रोज एक फिल्म देखनी है वगैरह?
I have that thing. I really want to watch at least 1 or 2 films every day.
Just because you want to, या फिर religiously because सीखना भी है and all of that, उसके वजह से भी?
Yeah,
Do you
religiously.
like get film fatigue at some point?
Film fatigue.
You have periods where you don't watch anything.
I have periods when I don't watch it, but all the time I regret that I'm not watching a film.
Acha.
Like, shit, man, no, not watching a film today. Also, even today, before I come, I was planning to watch one film and come. But then it did not happen. I was thinking of watching this film, A Moment of Sadness by Makmal Buff. A Moment of Innocence. A Moment of Innocence by Makmal Buff. It's on YouTube. So I was planning to watch that, and then it did not happen. Now it's there in the back of my mind that I need to go and watch that film.
Do you strictly make a distinction between films and TV shows वगैरह कि these are two different
Not
mediums?
Really. Yeah, they are 2 different mediums for sure. They are. That there is no denying it. There is no other way to. There is no other way. It's 2 different mediums for sure. Because of the length and because basically of the length. Because of the length and because of the structuring. Because the length gives the structuring. So it's different, definitely. But which is good or bad? Is the question something like that? Which is better or something?
What do you prefer?
I rarely watch web series, but it's not that I don't prefer. I feel like it will take a long time to watch one web series and I don't end up watching. Or sometimes I watch, but it's mostly I watch films. I don't know why, but it's just that I end up watching films.
I've recently gotten into like shows a bit more than films. And the reason being, I make sense of it by saying कि अच्छा ठीक, because you're invested in the character more. You stay with them for longer, वगैरह वगैरह. It's just fun. Like, what are you watching these days? As a TV shows वगैरह या फिर
TV shows
films?
वगैरह I'm not watching much. Nothing. I just watch Asur that day.
कैसा वो?
मतलब कमर्शियल है, ठीक है, मतलब इट्स इंटरेस्टिंग. कुछ चीज़ें तो बहुत अच्छा है, मतलब वो AI जो AI लिया है उसमें वो सब इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट है. बट मतलब उतना एक पॉइंट पे बहुत वो हो जाता है. मतलब मोस्ट ऑफ दिस वेब सीरीज ना, in the beginning they are interesting and at some point I lose मतलब interest, but then I feel like FOMO हो जाता है कि I'll miss out and I just somehow I end up watching it, I finish it.
मेरे ये हुआ था इसके साथ, सक्सेशन के साथ. So like I watched सक्सेशन का first season when it came out, and then फिर कोई reason की वजह से नहीं देख पाया. And then recently 4th season आया and everybody's fucking talking about it, like it's the best fucking thing. And like shit dude, देखा ही नहीं. And then I started watching it. I've passed 3rd season, 4th season enter कर रहा हूँ, but great shit. Actually,
Okay.
great shit.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This shit happens when everybody is talking about something.
Yeah. And
You're
you
like,
have this. Yeah. I mean, that's
just
part
want
of.
to be different, I guess. That's all. But
हाँ
Guwahati का नहीं देखनी.
हाँ, ऐसा
Mainstream
देख
है.
ऐसे ऐसे ही देखता हूँ मैं भी, जितना भी मैंने देखा है वेब सीरीज़ वगैरह वैसे ही देखा है। फिल्म्स भी ऐसे बहुत कुछ देख लेता हूँ, पर मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स आई ट्राई टू वॉच फिल्म्स विच आर which would help me in learning more or feeling more. Like I like to watch intense films, or and my favorite films, I would say, are mostly Asian and
Yeah.
South Asian films. I really like Asian films a lot, specifically Southeast Asian. So say I like. Um, so there is this filmmaker called Simon Liang. He's from Taiwan, and his films are like crazy. And his films are about loneliness. And there is a film called I Can't Sleep Alone,
Okay.
and it's a brilliant film. It's so intense. There's another film called What Time Is It There? And that is like, there's a film called Wayward Clouds. That's about porn industry. Very interesting film. So Simon Liang is one of my favorite filmmakers. He's from Taiwan. Then there is this Jia Zhangke from China. His film called Still Life is one of the best films I feel that I've watched. And a lot like Apichatpong. He's from Thailand. I once got this opportunity almost to go and work with Apichatpong, and
Yes,
work as in like there's a workshop that they have, but it was too costly and I could not afford it. But Apichatpong had chosen. There were 50 filmmakers all over the world, and he had watched this film and had submitted this film, The Horse from Heaven.
Okay.
This is all before all this Oscar shit and all this festival things. Then they selected me among 50 filmmakers in the world, and it was supposed to happen in Peru. It happened. I couldn't attend it. It was costly. This time also it is happening, but I did not fill up because I can't afford it. But like this idea of like missing to meet Apichatpong, man.
But just knowing the fact he watched your film
Yeah,
and he probably liked it.
probably liked it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, he's a very, very interesting filmmaker, man. Like Southeast Asia has stories and films which are very different, man. Like, very different. Like I told you about the Ghost, how the West looks at Ghost, and look at how people in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, places like that, are looking at ghosts in such friendly manner. But they're there. They're just there. Like our ghosts. Look at our ghosts. They're funny, man. They'd shit on your plate when you are eating. There's this Bira ghost. He would shit on your plate when you are eating. That is his like one of the notorious things
That's
he does.
his thing.
Yeah, he would fire somewhere. There is this ghost which is about bamboo trees. Like if you are passing by that tree, there will be a bamboo like this. When you cross it, then the ghost will pull you up.
Okay.
So that's
Really specific shit.
and that's so ingrained now that at night you have to go by the bamboo grooves in the villages. The ghost will be there in the bamboo grooves, and it will, if you are not careful enough where you're keeping your step, it will just hit you on your balls. It will just take you. It will hit you on your balls.
Yeah.
So the ghosts are interesting like that. They're very different. There is a convoot. Convoot is like a short boat which does not have a. I think he does not have a neck, or he does not have a body. Like his head is on the
Pelvis.
legs, basically legs,
Yeah.
and then the head. So it's like that, and he would just run, and they're notorious ghosts. They would just there is Bach who loves fish. He would just
Yeah, I've heard of that.
so he would just become the person and kill the person. If he kills a person, he'll become the person and go just because he loves fishes. So there are these stories, and they intertwingle with different communities and different, the same stories will be told by a different community in a different part of India, say, or different part of Northeast. They are basically, so the basically what I was trying to say is that their way of looking at ghosts is so different. I think only somebody from Southeast Asia can think of ghosts in that way. We can. Um, Even the way of looking at loneliness, like I said, it's so different for us. Look at Simon Liang film, for say. There are people everywhere. Like there is this film called I Can't Sleep Alone. It's about a man, somebody, one boy finds a worker who's been beaten up by, he's a worker who has traveled from Bangladesh. I mean, illegal immigrant from Bangladesh, and he's been hit in like in the city somewhere. Somebody hit him. So this guy saves him and takes him home, and then he takes care of him. So it is about this place where a lot of them stay together. Like you remember my film, there is this hostel space where lots of people are there.
Yeah.
Similar. So there is a space where lots of people stay together, and these are all workers. And this guy cannot work because he's hit. So this other guy is taking care of him. And there is loneliness amongst people, amongst all this, textured walls and cluttered, and everything is so filled up. It's not like how you look at a space in America. Say there is huge spaces. Say in Russia, when I was there, like I was telling, there is space, immense space, and you can just, and these places are so crumbled up, and still people are lonely, and their kind of loneliness is very different. That is what I connect to. Say Jia Janke's films, he's from China, and whatever he's making in cinema, I feel that he's making about Guwahati, man.
Okay.
It's crazy. It's I feel that it's Guwahati. It's talking about the bridges being made, and what the development, so-called development that is taking place, and how workers are losing their jobs, and there is no job, and how the class difference is increasing slowly and slowly, and how the government, there is a communist government there, and how the government is taking case of everyone in different ways. But the stories are romantic stories, and say human, some people meeting someone. It's like that. But then the whole politics is there. So I feel very connected to all those films.
Talked about you watched his films and you were like, he's talking about Guwahati.
Yeah.
Guwahati, I feel, is a really interesting city in the way that I feel it hasn't been used that much in the films. Like
Yeah.
every city has some sort of vibe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
कि
Definitely.
बॉम्बे है सिटी ऑफ ड्रीम्स whatever and ये जगह वैसी है वो जगह वैसी है.
Yeah.
गुवाहाटी का क्या लगता
Kolkata,
है?
if you look at Kolkata, it's like a nostalgic city.
Nostalgia, that's what.
Yeah.
So what do you think Guwahati would be like as a city if Guwahati was a character? What would it be like in a film?
Guwahati, if is a character, I would say it's a lover about whom you cannot explain to someone you know that you are in love with this person, and the person is such and such. That is how I feel about Guwahati. Guwahati is so beautiful, and like it's so intense and so amazing. But when I try to tell someone about Guwahati, I end up having nothing to say, because probably someday I will show it in my films, because it's an experience. Like say somebody, if I'm some days ago I was in Kerala, I was traveling in Kerala. So different cities I go, they would introduce me to their food. So in Kerala, they have different biryani in different cities. So say they would introduce me to the different kind of biryani there. They would take me to a new church. They would take me to say a performance. Like there is this Theyyam that happens in not Perambavoor, the north of the film. What is this film? अरे
कौन
this
सी?
hit film. हाँ
कौन सी फिल्म?
अभी जो
अभी जो
this-
हिट हुई है काफी रिसेंटली,
हाँ,
साउथ वाली कंतारा.
कांतारा का जो वो मतलब वो है ना फॉर्म है ना.
हाँ.
So it is it's in the border of मतलब केरला के साइड में उसको
अच्छा.
थेयम बोलते हैं. It's very similar. So थेयम वो मुझे देखने ले गया. But I don't understand if they come to Guwahati and tell me to they ask me to take them to somewhere
Where would you
and
take
show
them?
them the city का vibe समझाने के लिए. I don't know where I will take them. I keep asking this question a lot to myself that where is the vibe of Guwahati? But I don't find it, man. It's so difficult. I can take them to these tourist places, but that's not what Guwahati is. It's definitely not there. It's especially not there. Specifically, these tourist places where tourists should go, like the zoo and the Kolakshetra and these places, that's not Guwahati. What is Guwahati? Guwahati is it's an experience of living in Guwahati, man, that you cannot explain. Like
I'd probably take them to Uzan Bazaar. I don't know why.
That's
but
a good
I'd
place to
probably
take.
them
Yeah.
there. Because
Yeah.
I usually go to that place. Cafes
And-
वगैरह है.
हाँ,
It's a
हाँ.
really youthful place.
Beautiful place. Yeah, that's a good place to take people. But then again, that is also that is not
Yeah,
Guwahati,
that is
man.
not
That is
something
a
that
very
encapsulates.
posh Guwahati. That is
yeah,
where
for
the
sure, for
posh
sure.
part of Guwahati would be.
Yeah,
That
for
is
sure.
where you would find good food definitely, or you would. But that's not at all Guwahati. Guwahati is in Fancy Bazaar. If you go in the interior gullies, Guwahati is there. If you go to the hills and from there, if you look at the Brahmaputra, Guwahati is there. If you go to the Gorbhanga hill in the forest, amidst forest, Guwahati is there. Guwahati is there in the flats that are there unplanned, and the drains that are completely unplanned, and the flood that happens every year. That is Guwahati for me. I cannot end up explaining what Guwahati is because the character of Guwahati changes instantly. And it has changed so instantly for me specifically that I struggle to categorize and even to, like nostalgically think about Guwahati. When I was young, the Guwahati I knew was very different. Now Guwahati is completely different. So it's a huge gap. It's not just a simple gap. It's a huge leap. Specifically, say the places where I live right now in Borbari. Say in Borbari, you will. When I was a kid, I used to play with all the people from different communities, like Bodos and specifically Karbi people. I grew up with them. We used to have gangs and we used to beat up people.
अच्छा.
That kind of a shit was there. And these gangs would be, say, in Borbari का एक gang हो गया, एक 6 Mile का gang हो गया.
हाँ.
And then there would be
अच्छा,
gangs
gang
from
wars.
हाँ, and then there would be
Wow.
school का gang.
हाँ.
से ऐसे का मैं ऐसे में पढ़ता था, मैं
अरे
ऐसे
भाई,
का gang.
you seem too sweet to do that.
हाँ, you really think like that, man? It was a life, man. It was very different. We used to be very different at that time.
Yeah. I've only been to a gang war once.
Huh.
It wasn't even gang war. It was just 20 people from this side, 20 people
That's
from
what
that.
gang war is.
I guess.
Yeah,
But
that's what it is.
somebody said something to somebody's girl, whatever. Usually वो होता है.
yeah.
And then we got there, and then there was this one sweet-looking, chubby-looking guy. who basically sorted everything out.
हाँ.
सब वहाँ से लोग आए हैं, हॉके लेके, यहाँ से भी लोग आए. I was like, dude, देखने को मिलेगा, लड़ाइयाँ होंगी.
हाँ, पर कुछ
And
नहीं
then
हुआ.
सब sort out कर
Sort
दिया.
out हो
I'm like,
गया.
what the fuck was that? मैं अपना क्लास छोड़ के किस काम के लिए आया हूँ.
हाँ, most of the
And
time
then I
यही होता
heard
था.
कि most of the times वही होता है. Like,
यही
it
होता
just
है.
gets sorted out. कोई किसी
हाँ.
को नहीं पीटता है.
कोई किसी को नहीं पीटता है. बट बहुत बार लेकिन पीटा गया है. बहुत सारे ऐसे सिचुएशंस में मैं रहा हूँ जहाँ पे लोगों को मारा गया, पीटा गया, या फिर पता रियल फाइट्स हुए हैं. सो दैट टाइम वाज वेरी डिफरेंट. यू नो, दैट टाइम गुवाहाटी वाज वेरी डिफरेंट. राइट नाउ गुवाहाटी इज वेरी डिफरेंट. Now you will never find such things. Like rarely you will find gangs. So we used to really call and feel that it was a gang. We used to have that kind of a brotherhood. I'm not trying to make it sound something great, but I'm just trying to explain that the change that has happened. You know, उस टाइम पे अलग था. मतलब उस टाइम पे था ऐसा कि मतलब मेरे भाई को मार दिया, उसको मारूंगा, चले जाएंगे. मेरी बंदी को छेड़ दिया किसी ने, उसको जाके पीटना है. पूरा full power. It is very problematic. But then what I'm trying to say is it was very different times that we lived in. Very different. That was what being heroic was at that point. Heroes were supposed to be dons. Heroes
And do you
were
think that
supposed-
came from cinema? From films? या फिर local influence था?
See, from films, though, definitely the way Bombay or Bollywood has portrayed gangs, and that would obviously influence. But in Northeast, it's a kind of a different. The history of Northeast it impacts that. It impacts the whole scenario, how these things are taken. You know, like say this phase when this gang wars had happened, or like say, just for the lack of a better word, I'm just calling them, these are street brawls actually, but gang wars, I'm just saying it says gang war. So when this phase existed, it was after 2000s, and it went on till around maybe 2014-15 max. After that, slowly and slowly it disappeared. That is what my understanding of it is. During the 90s and in the early 21st century, Assam was going through a huge unrest because of Alpha and all the other things. So you know, there are lots of things that these are theories of mine. Okay, these are not like proper documented things. These are what my observations are. So you know, that impacts the whole generation that is coming up. You know, because so when such an unrest is happening, violence becomes very close to you. It becomes very easily available. And when violence is easily available, violence attracts you. And when you look at violence, it is always that one person is dominating over the other. One person is more powerful than the other. That is the whole point of a brawl or crime in that way. Violence in that way, because it's about power.
It's
So
a
when-
zero-sum game. Like somebody's gonna win, somebody's
somebody's gonna lose. So you always want to be on the winning side. So because it is already a unrested kind of a place, unrest going on in the place, and then the reasons of why there is unrest is also there, because of unemployment and because of the marginalization of Northeast. That unrest is there. So when there is marginalization going on of a place, then there are lots of things that come into action. Like for example, there was less opportunities for a lot of people to actually explore art. You know, less opportunities to think of sports, or less opportunity to cinema was banned, because mostly banned. It was closed. Like then there was this VCD era which came. It was a very it was not about community living. It was more about living in the house and watching films. DVD era. So all these things kept on changing. So you know, like this whole unrest makes the psychology, turns the psychology into something different. That is what I have felt. And that acts into for the whole generation. It is not just one or two people who have had first encounters with violence, but also people who have only heard of them. But you feel that violence is around. It is not that it is a thing of stories, or you know that there is violence. You have seen bomb blasts. I myself have witnessed bomb blasts. Probably you probably too have.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're too young. I don't know, but I have in my life. I've seen that. So this unrest, and then when there is unrest, people start demanding, and when they're demanding and when they're looking for something, and they have this angst, it has to go out in certain form. Probably that is how it had started. And post digitalization, people had found newer ways of expression. Facebook had come into more into existence. There was YouTube and things which are readily available to people, so they could waste their energy there. This extra energy that they were wasting in like this violence and stuff. So now they become more into. And then there was also slowly and slowly I have observed that after that period, I think intoxication also increased in the areas of Northeast. Like there was more drugs, more daru, and these things have increased, is what I have felt. So, the energy is being transformed into something else. But this angst is there. But angst का जो energy है वो अलग तरीके से जा रहा है. Even CA का जो आंदोलन हुआ था, I think that is a complete explanation in itself that how people are so frustrated. It was not led by anyone. I am making a film on it. I am already researching and stuff. I was also part of the CA Andolan, and
A feature film?
I don't know. It's a documentary,
Acha.
but I don't know how long it will be. But I'm trying to make a film on it. But the thing is that what I have observed is it's the angst that is there in the people that came out. It was not by there were lots of parties involved, and there was lots of politics with good and bad and all that. There are different layers to it, but the core of it was really like the angst of the people. And so yeah, that's it. That's how I think these things have existed. And they exist. I think that is part of Guwahati that I had seen, and present Guwahati is very different. Like I said, it's a Kaandolan ke time ka Guwahati, not a bomb blast ke time ka Guwahati. Like there are so many people, so many different kinds of people that you see in your area, where you used to know everyone. Everyone you used to know everyone. Now people, you rarely recognize any face out there. Also, another very interesting thing about Guwahati is that Guwahati, when it started as a city, I think in 1971, after it shifted from Shillong, 71 or 80 something.
So it's fairly new.
Yeah, it's fairly new. So when it was shifted, this city was actually of the Karbis and the Boros, basically the Karbi people. It was a Karbi village, you can say, clustered around the whole city. And there were Boro people also. So, like this whole... when it was this transformation into the city that you see today, had a lot to do with the migration of these people who have traveled out into, say, Karbi Anglong, and I'm also trying to make a film on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know when I can make it, but it is called what does the Marseng Hill see? So Marseng Hill is the hill where I live. And the name of the hill is given by the Karbi people. It was long back. It's also mentioned in some songs, and also it is about tracing back my friends who I grew up with, who were Karbis, and eventually they had sold their lands and mostly have traveled to either Sonapur side, tribal belts, or Karbi Anglong and stuff like that. So these things, why am I making a film on that? Because it impacts me. Very seriously, it impacts me. The city and the sadness of the city, the happiness of the city, the energy of the city. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this about feature films. So you've also written feature films, right?
Yeah.
Like you've written
I've
Bulu,
written 3 of them.
yeah,
Yeah, Bulu Film,
Bulu Film and Boroxhun.
Boroxhun and Hero. Yeah, 3 of them.
So, like, what is the difference when you write for something like a short film that you're gonna make it, and something that's a feature film that's supposed to be probably commercial too? Like, what changes?
See, these are different forms. Short film is a different form, and feature film is a different form.
My question is also directed towards the fact that they are supposed to be commercial, right? So
Yeah.
that element too.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
does that change the dynamics?
That changes, but then you see, there are different ways of making films. Like there are filmmakers who are making films which are feature films and which are not commercial at all. Like Borokhun was not supposed to be commercial. It's not commercial.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a so-called art film, you can say, or whatever the term you want to use. It's a festival kind of a film, and it did good in festivals, and it's commercial in in a different way, basically. Working for Bulu Film was a different thing because it was commercial in a completely different way. We had ideas of how we are going to commerce with the film, do the commerce of the film. So short films के टाइम पे we don't think कि commerce करना है इससे. Feature film में किया था commerce, but then what doesn't change is more important, I think. When you're making a commercial film or a non-commercial or art film or whatever, it's always important that what doesn't change. Because what changes is evident. There is money involved, so you need to get money back. So how do you get money back? You hire good cast, I mean famous people, known faces. You shoot grandish. You tell stories that would give jump, like people who jump every 5 minutes. These are basic things about writing a commercial film.
So it does change the way you write.
Of course it does.
Okay.
Of course it has to, because the intention is different. So when you're making films, it's always about the intention. Like obviously there are people who cannot write a commercial film. Some people would not write a artistic film. Some would always make commercials. So that is also to do with the person. But the intention is the most important, that divides them. So because the intention is to basically to get money in cash in the box office, so the way of making it will be very different, which is quite self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But what doesn't change is more important. What I mean by that is that when I'm making a commercial film or a film which is not supposed to be that commercial in that way, or see, I don't categorize films as commercial and art films per se, like a lot of people. But I do believe that there is always a commercial aspect to cinema. There's always an artistic aspect to cinema. There's always a revolution aspect to cinema. There is always an ignorant aspect to cinema. So now you have to choose which aspect is more important for your film.
What do you mean by the ignorant aspect of cinema?
Say films which are propaganda films per se. So it's an ignorant film which will ignore the other aspect of looking at the whole situation. Although even the filmmaker knows that there can be another aspect, but he will ignore it completely. And he will think of only this side of it. This is also a branch of, so when you think of a film which is commercial, it has more of the ignorant idea. So it will ignore the things that you could have incorporated, but you won't, because it does not matter to the people who might be watching it, you think. So that is another aspect. So these aspects will be different value when in different films. That is what I have felt. For different films, it will be different.
And what is it that doesn't change?
Yeah, what doesn't change? That's that has to be a very wide range of things, but what I feel for me is that I cannot make a film which does not make sense to me.
Hmm.
You know, I cannot make it just because it will give me money or popularity. Unless and until it becomes personal to me, I cannot make the film. I cannot write it. It has to be personal. At least till now, I'm maintaining it. It has to have. It has to have something strong to say. Something of which caters to the politics that I believe in. Any kind of politics. It can be my sexual politics, my community politics, or any kind of politics that I believe in. But it has to talk about that strongly. But I also believe in films have to get money. Like I believe in a commercial cinema, the commercial aspect of cinema. That whatever film I want to make it commercial enough to get money out of it. That is also another intention. But then, so that is how I think of cinema. So that what does not change, it matters. Like that is me. That does not change. In all the films, there will be me, myself, my blood and my flesh and my soul will have to be there.
So I'll probably let you go now.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming to the
Yeah.
podcast.
Thank you. It was amazing. Really.